One Piece Treasure Box System, Chapter 1701-1720. Chapter 1701-Royal Girl. Caillou is a mixture of human race and witch race, but the ancient Julie tribe regarded itself as a human race, but Caillou's words just now clearly admitted that it was a witch race. After all, the current human race, headed by Fuxi, recognizes the three emperors as their ancestors, and it is estimated that Caillou will have a lot of unhappiness when he knows this. Or, in the ancient times, it was under the guise of the human race, and wanted to let the witches re-enter the stage and compete for the position of the protagonist in the world. Is it from that clan? How-to rubbed her chin, with a look of memory in her eyes. In ancient times, after the Lich War, she was reincarnated because of her incarnation, but it was for the remaining witch clan after the Lich War. Provides a last refuge. Both clans suffered, and the remaining clan members were less than 1/10,000th. Of course, there are also some witch tribes who are reluctant to enter the Six Paths, and serve as the guardians of reincarnation for life. They choose to stay on the broken land. These people unite and survive with difficulty. This is the original Julie tribe. At that time, the Julie tribe, with the passage of time and the heavenly way did not allow it to survive. The life became more and more difficult, and the number of people became less and less. The Julie clan, which already numbered less than 5,000 people, split up again, and part of them went to the dangerous places such as Beijulujo, seeking a little chance of survival in the harsh living environment. Some of them came to the center of Nanshanbujo to implement the plan of assimilating the human race, capturing human race women along the way and forcibly multiplying offspring. The reproduction ability of the human race is much higher than that of the witch race. After such predatory forced reproduction, the Julie clan has grown rapidly in the past few decades, turning into a tribe of tens of thousands of people. Among them, the pure-blooded witches continue to kidnap human women, while the descendants of those human witches engage in internal intermarriage to ensure that their blood will not be thinned again. Caillou is the descendant of the first generation of human witches, inheriting the bloodline of the witch race and the bloodline of the human race, because after the opening of the sky, the first human witch descendant has many extraordinary things. After 500 years have passed, the older generation of the Wu clan began to decline gradually. After all, the Wu clan did not cultivate the primordial spirit and would not reach the realm of the golden immortal, and their lifespan was limited, only a few thousand years. Caillou rose and began to lead the Julie clan. Because of the long-term recuperation, the Julie clan at this time had already exceeded 10,000 people who could fight. Caillou launched an offensive against the Nanshanbujo people, determined to unify the human clan and complete the final Wu clan. Revival. It's a pity that Caillou was placed on high hopes by the clan since he was a child, and he developed an arrogant character. Although his talent was extraordinary, in the end, due to various defects and the injustice of heaven, he was defeated by Xuanyuan Wangdi, whose cultivation was far inferior to him. Is this okay? I killed other living beings because of me. How-to had a bit of unease on her face. She was perfect and pure. Although she has gone through hundreds of millions of years, her nature has not changed, but she can't bear to hurt the lives of others. When Roha heard How-to's words, he was relieved. How-to did not count Caillou among his clansmen. Zulu was the descendant of Pengu's blood essence. As for the Wu people, they were the descendants of the 12 ancestors with their own essence and blood. The Caillou bloodline was already confused with the human race, and combined with the filthy blood of the Sea of Blood, it was no longer considered a descendant of the Wu people. Heavenly Tao does not allow him to survive. Now that I think about it, the reason why Minghei's 6 senses are so easily dusted is probably because he moved Caillou. And the reason for Tiandao's anger, even if the three of us don't make a move, I'm afraid Caillou is born. In a very short time will also fall. Roha opened his mouth and said a word, and his heart was once again alerted to the ubiquitous influence of heaven, just like the battle of conferring the gods. Countless cultivators, as if they were caught by evil, rushed up one by one, and even made many actions that went against their character and common sense. In a big way, this is because they don't usually cultivate merits and virtues, and they deserve this calamity, but thinking about it in detail, I am afraid that Tiandao also feels that the threat of interception is not small, blinding their sixth senses. There are too many factors related to luck, merit, etc., and it is impossible to generalize, but as far as Caillou is concerned, even if the three let him go, he will not live long. Nowadays, many great powers are starting to compete for the violet chi of Hongmeng. The secret is chaotic, and the murderous intention is manifested. Styx is the first Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian to fall, but it is definitely not the last. And with Chiyu's temperament, after going out, he will be besieged by many Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian cultivators in minutes. There is no suspense at all. As for his death temper, Roha dares to conclude that he will die within 5 years. Be careful of yourself, just give up if you can't do anything, even if it is only the mediation lotus, it is already a great creation. Hutu sighed and looked at the position of the mediation lotus, with a little helplessness in his eyes. Born under the heavenly Tao, they must be controlled by it. The era of the Wu clan has ended. Mixed blood between humans and witches, and then supporting the Wu clan's beams, is inherently beyond their own power. In the later stage, they failed to win that chance of survival. Well, I'll come back in 3 days. Roha knew that Hutu had mixed feelings in his heart at this time, and didn't say much. He glanced at the medicine garden spirit field with the soul tree, turned around and walked out of the Huanji Lingyuan map. 3 days later, a new Juran Zima will be born. Nearly 100 of them are Zima. Not to mention too many, even if there are 5, it is also a great improvement for the Lingyuan map of the world. What do you say? I heard that it is a perfect existence, and it is not easy to kill, not to mention that Caillou has the blood of the witch tribe. Zhen Yuanzi saw Roha coming out and asked. Mixed blood between humans and witches, coupled with the turbid blood in the sea of blood, the relationship with the witches has long been very weak, don't mind. Roha shrugged and explained to Zhen Yuanzi. When he looked at Chiyu, his cheeks couldn't help but be ruthless. Take a puff. It has to be said that this guy Subhuti was very ruthless. Under the repeated bombardment, Caillou could not find a piece of good skin on his body at this time, and the 8 legs derived from the supernatural power, 3 heads and 6 arms, had already been interrupted at this time. 5, and the remaining 3, struggling to support. Tisk tisk, the royal girl is well-rounded. Zhen Yuanzi raised his eyebrows, and said quite indecently, admiring Roha's ability to win women's hearts. How pure and good the Hutu is, you can see from the reincarnation of the body, and Roha can actually make the Hutu not care about Chiyu. In Subhuti's view, such a skill is really something that a person can have. Your sister-in-law. Roha gave Subhuti a roll of eyes angrily, which has nothing to do with the art of the royal daughter. Chapter 1702-Powerful Subhuti. I was born to be raised, I was born alone, and I have no siblings. Zhen Yuanzi said with an embarrassed look on his face. He really couldn't handle Roha's ridicule. Sister. Roha's eyes rolled even more when he heard Zhen Yuanzi's words. What's more, the two of them are not on the same channel at all. His phrase, you your sister, means, fuck you, a normal interjection, it doesn't matter if this guy has a sister. After muttering in his heart for a long time, Roha could only attribute it to this journey to the West world, and he was far from being able to accept such a trendy thing. In terms of laughter, this world still couldn't keep up with people's footsteps. Subhuti. While Roha and Zhen Yuanzi were chatting, Caillou let out an inhuman howl, and the voice was full of hostility, and there was a feeling of extreme suffocation. From the beginning of the fight, Chiyu was completely at a disadvantage, and after Subhuti had figured out all of his magical powers, he beat him to the point where he couldn't lift his head. Chiyu originally had a surge in self-confidence after being promoted to the Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian. After all, when he was in the Deluo Jinxian, he was invincible in the same realm. Even if he took the 2 Deluo Jinxian helpers invited by the Yellow Emperor, he could beat the opponent. Of retreating. Even if he failed in the end, Chiyu was besieged by everyone at the same time. Even after being captured, Emperor Xuanyuan tried his best to kill him, but he couldn't kill him completely. Such an opponent couldn't do anything about his self-confidence. When he faced Subhuti today, he was completely shattered. Those who can cultivate to the realm of Deluo Jinxian are all geniuses, but those who can become Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian can be called the favored sons of heaven. And Subhuti is the leader among the proud sons of this day. Even in the ranks of Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian, his combat power is definitely among the best. At such a time, the difference in combat power between the two was highlighted. Not to mention that Subhuti was 3 small realms higher than Chiyu. Even if they were in the same realm, Chiyu would not be Subhuti's opponent. "Don't call me an old man anymore," Zhen Yuanzi said sarcastically from the side, his face full of ridicule. When Chiyu called Subhuti just now, it was an old man's call. This suddenly changed his name. "Where can I not make a joke? You are so old, can't you see that your own people are better?" Subhuti didn't answer Chiyu's intentions at all, and he waved the Subhuti vine in his hand continuously. "Old, this is a good name." Roha patted Zhen Yuanzi on the shoulder, and really felt that the longer this guy lived, the more like a child, with such a personality, the more and more cynical. "I look younger than Subhuti anyway." Zhen Yuanzi shrugged helplessly when he saw Roha's eyes, and replied directly. Although Zhen Yuanzi has been enlightened for hundreds of millions of years, he still has black hair and no wrinkles on his face. He looks like a man in his 30s. Subhuti is different. Although his face is like a crown of jade, he also has no wrinkles at all, but with white hair and white eyebrows, he looks like an old immortal. If he is young, no one believes at all. "You two, is this the time to talk about this? This guy is going to give up his life." Subhuti heard the two of them speak sarcastically. Kai-yu. After successive defeats, and even the use of several secret methods of the witch race, Subhuti has not been able to do anything, and Kai-yu's expression is full of madness. Reappearing in the form of 3 heads and 6 arms, Kai-yu held the seal with both hands, bowed and showed his 4 arms, barely resisting Subhuti's onslaught with his double hammer and halberd. Jia Jia Jia. U U U U G G G G G G G G G G G G G G G G dong 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 G G G G G G G. These 12 mouthfuls of blood congealed into villains of different shapes. These villains are clearly the appearance of the 12 ancestors. They have all hands and feet, and their shapes are realistic. Buzz tilde. 12 little people were arranged in a circle, moving synchronously, choking in their hands, spinning endlessly. An air of majesty began to condense on Kai-yu's body, making Kai-yu's whole body soaring, and even a circle of blood light appeared on his body, slowing down. Slowly condensed the appearance of Pengu's real body. This is the 12 capital heavenly gods formation. It looks like it doesn't look like it. Subhuti's eyes were dignified, with a vigilant look on his face. What's the situation? Is it very popular to transform recently? Roha looked at Kai-yu's greatly transformed figure, and couldn't help but muttered, it's okay to respect the building transformation. People are mixed blood of gods and demons, such a special witch mixed blood also changed. And the summoning is still Pengu Phantom. The way of death, persist for a quarter of an hour at most, and the real body will collapse. Zhen Yuanzi originally planned to help Subhuti. After all, in the later stage of Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian, it was completely different from the earlier stage. The gap between them was huge and terrifying. But after a closer look at Kai-yu's current appearance, he has no plans to take action anymore. In a quarter of an hour, Kai-yu's flesh body will not be able to withstand the blessing of this magical power, and after using this secret method, he will definitely become extremely weak. In terms of Subhuti's ability, a quarter of an hour in the late stage of a Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian is more than enough, and there will be no accident at all. Even with his flexible and changeable magical techniques, in a quarter of an hour, Kai-yu wants to hurt Shu. Bodhi is an idiot's dream. After Chiyu's power skyrocketed, his speed suddenly increased a lot, and he took one step at a time, as fast as the void was moving, and Subhuti's pressure also increased a lot. It's just what Zhen Yuanzi can see, and Subhuti can naturally see that, without giving Kai-yu a chance to confront him, The supernatural power, Mirage Feather, can be used to divide thousands of phantoms, and the real body is hidden in the phantoms and can be freely transformed. Caillou couldn't even touch the corner of his clothes. I'm going to steal people's heads. The worst thing is, I can't let this Chiyu die. If there are no fragments of the supreme treasure chest, then it's not a big loss. Roha was a little anxious. After all, he didn't expect that Subhuti, who seemed to be a little tied up in the Styx River, was able to completely suppress the Daojingxian Taoist, without giving him the slightest chance. Coupled with the barrier that Zhen Yuanzi had set up to trap Minghe, Caillou had nowhere to escape. If it took longer, Caillou would have to die. Just as he was about to speak out and ask Subhuti to show mercy, don't slap him to death with a whip, Roha saw Chiyu suddenly turn his head to look at him, and his eyes were full of ferocity. Chapter 1703 Who in the world can kill me? Caillou's face showed a fierce light, and in this fierce light there was the last hysteria. There were 12 blood-coagulated villains around him. All of them looked like ghost babies, with black and red blood rising into the sky. Turning around, Caillou suddenly rushed straight towards Roha. The 8-legged volleying force, and the magic power of the escape technique came out, which was so fast that people had no time to react. Fuck Nima, are you aiming at me again? Roha scolded inwardly, and the Jingxi Lotus Robe and the Golden Wheel of Heaven's Punishment directly turned into Shanji Zanpakudo, 12th grade Merit Golden Lotus, close black lens bracket instant protection in the body. When the sound of gold and iron clashing came, and Roha's figure flew out. The Taoist of Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian level, the physical strength was so strong that his arm was numb. If it weren't for the 12-rank Merit Golden Lotus, the defense was amazing. Maybe he will be defeated in one move. His physical cultivation base is now stagnant at the peak of Tai True Immortal, and only Taoist cultivation base has reached the middle stage of Deluo Jingxian. Even if the immortal power is increased again, he cannot fight like a Taoist. Fortunately, he had been preparing to grab people's heads just now. Facing this kind of raid, he was able to react just now. Zhen Yuanzi's expression changed greatly. To stop its pursuit. Although the Taoist is stronger than the Taoist, if he fights in close quarters, he has to kneel. Choose your dare. Subhuti's beard and hair were all open, and his face was flashing blue and red. The fact that he was sneaked away by the enemy and raided his teammates really made him face a lot. Magnificent glory. Dare to treat Lao Su as a soft persimmon, there is a seed. Roha secretly hated, and now is a proper Taoist. He is really a bit empty in close combat, but when the distance is widened, Hunyuan Da Luo Jingxian can only be in the he slumped behind him. Kill the devil. With a low voice in his heart, the Chunji Zanpakudo in Roha's hand came out, and the move that just killed Minghe, under his hatred shot, was even more powerful by 3 points. Heavenly Tao has blessed Roha several times. Although it does not show any clues at ordinary times, it has actually accumulated to a considerable extent. At this time, his heart is angry, and the real fire god thunder roars, even the 500 miles. The radius and the void are shaking a little bit. Tian Dao was furious, and there was nothing to be worthy of, and the Pengu real body that Caillou condensed suddenly surging, with a great meaning of collapsing. Deluo Jingxian, how could it be? Caillou had a bit of horror on his face. As soon as Roha put away the Jingxi Lotus Robe, he felt the breath of his middle stage Deluo Jingxian. Can Deluo Jingxian resist the full attack of Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian Taoist? Can Daluo Jingxian issue such a powerful and terrifying attack? Without waiting for Caillou's doubts to be cleared up, Zanmo took Ling Ran's prestige down into the air, and the knife beam was extremely terrifying, and before he came, Caillou felt an irresistible feeling. The 12 villains who synthesized the Mizan 12 Capitals Heavenly Gods Array, screamed continuously, one wave after another, making people's eardrums seem to be pierced. Caillou was not a pure-blooded witch. During his cultivation, he had already entered the magic way because of his eagerness for quick success. Before, because of the blood refining of the ancestors of Minghe, his body had long been filled with the filthy blood of the Sea of Blood. The two are superimposed, and this Devil Slayer is a particularly great threat to him, and even Subhuti's combination of magical powers can't compare with this Devil Slayer. I am the devil god Chiyu. Who can kill me in the world? Chiyu let out a roar. His face was full of madness, his canine teeth were protruding, and his appearance was closer and closer to the real body of Pengu. 5 of the 8 legs under his feet had already been discounted during the battle with Subhuti. Chiyu's supernatural powers were activated, and he immediately put them away. The 3 legs were in the shape of a triangle, and the 6 magic weapons in his hand rotated with his body shape, all of which hit him. Slaying demons, straight down. It's like it's hard to kill you. Roha's voice appeared behind Chiyu, and the Northern Xuanyuan water control flag, that he had put away in his hand, used the flagpole as a sword and stuck it straight into the back of Chiyu's neck. 3 heads and 6 arms. The supernatural powers have long been used by Kaiyu to a state of ecstasy, just like 8 legs can take 5 legs. Just because he wanted to look up at the Devil Slayer, in the sky, it was inconvenient to raise his 3 heads. Kaiyu moved his heart at will, and it has become his Achilles heel at this time. Puff. Roha's blinking raid was extremely fast, and in terms of the short-distance movement speed of spatial supernatural powers, Gen Motoko may not be able to match him. The moves that I have learned and used now from the ancestors of Minghe can definitely be regarded as a big killer. Although Northern Xuanyuan controlling water flag is a treasure for enlightened people, it is a top-level existence among the best innate spiritual treasures. The material itself is definitely not inferior to any treasure of the Taoist. Kaiyu's entire attention was on the Devil Slayer, in the sky. His body's defensive power was reduced to the limit, and the flagpole pierced his neck without encountering too much obstruction. The blood splattered, Kaiyu's eyes widened in anger. He could hardly believe that he would actually be defeated by a big Luo Jingxian, and his heart was filled with endless unwillingness. The 12 blood-stained villains lingering around him, because Kaiyu was severely injured, in the constant screams, their bodies began to gradually collapse and were on the verge of collapsing. The ancestral witch flesh god is immortal and immortal, and at the last moment, Kaiyu actually gave up the Devil Slayer, who resisted the falling of the sky, and directly hugged Roha's body with 4 arms in the opposite direction. In order to achieve the fastest speed at the time of instant 12th grade merit Golden Lotus, has been put away by Roha, but this hug directly locks him to death. Ho ho. Chiyu's throat was pierced, most of his spine was broken, and his body was still able to move, which was already against common sense. According to ancient legends, Xingtian had no head and could still dance with his relatives. Although Roha thought it was a bit inconceivable from the perspective of ordinary people, he reacted in a flash. Pull me to death. Do you know the Zanpakuto? Why is it called Zanpakuto? Roha had a bit of sarcasm on his face. Although Chiyu's words were not clear at all, the meaning was very plain. Pull him and die together under Destroyer Demon. Fellow Taoist Luo, Subhuti and Gen Yuanzi shouted urgently in unison, with expressions of extreme urgency on their faces. They never expected that Styx, who had already lost his hands, would break the halberd on Chiyu. Swish. Without giving the 2 of them any time to block them, Devil Slayer slashed directly over the 2 of them. The dazzling light of the sword penetrated through the 2 of them, and the real fire of Shenlei burst out. Kaiyu's expression was stagnant, the 12 blood-colored babies around him collapsed directly, and Roha had a smile on his face. Chapter 1704 Dividing the Spoils After the War. Things like Zanpakuto can be differentiated into spirits from the very beginning, and even if the blade is damaged, they can be repaired with spirits. After retraining, although I have gone through countless advanced steps, this characteristic has always been retained, and it is the treasure of Roha's life. Life and life are the same. If the sword is damaged, people will naturally suffer light trauma. In the process of the downward slash, under the combination of life and life, the Zanpakuto will not cause any damage to Roha at all. The place where the blade touches directly turns into a free spirit child, and after passing through the body, it quickly converges on the together. This kind of thing combines the characteristics of the Zanpakuto and the characteristics of the magic weapon of life. It can be regarded as the only existence in the world of Journey to the West. Not to mention Chiyu, even Junyuanzi and Subhuti find it difficult to understand. Fellow Taoist Luo, Subhuti used his escaping magic power to come to Roha's side, waved Chiyu who was cut in half, and flew out, holding his shoulders with both hands, as if he was afraid that it would split from it. Move very carefully. Taoist Subhuti, fast, medicine pill, anti-god art. Zhen Yuanzi was not much better than Subhuti, he said to Subhuti, and he hurriedly squeezed the formula in his hand, using a very high-end supernatural power. Technique. Congratulations to the host for killing the demon god Chiyu and obtaining the supreme treasure chest fragment ×1. Quote. Subhuti and Zhen Yuanzi's words and the system's prompt sound were almost in no particular order. The smile on Roha's face had not yet subsided, and the two of them looked like they were about to die. I'm not dead yet, can I not make such a fuss? Roha waved and patted Subhuti's hand on his shoulder, with an expression of crying and laughing on his face. After all, there are two Hunyuan de Luo Jingxian, can't it be seen that his body is not injured at all? So drunk. Subhuti and Zhen Yuanzi's movements were all stagnant. They looked at each other with a bit of a strange look on their faces, and there was a big, what? Okay, my life magic weapon is relatively special, but it won't hurt myself. Roha saw the expressions of the two, and said helplessly again, and with a wave of his hand, that Chanji Zanpakudo was summoned. Gestured towards his arm. The scene of the blade turning into a spiritual child after touching the body was clearly seen by the two of them. Neither of them could understand such an unheard-of scene. But fortunately, knowing that Roha was fine, the two of them were relieved. This trip out was really thrilling. Several times, they were worried that Roha was robbed with them. But after these 2 times, Subhuti and Zhen Yuanzi also have an intuitive understanding of Roha's combat power. Although they are not as good as the two for the time being, they're changing fighting styles, the kind of cleverness that takes time to let go of the cold. Coupled with the character of daring to take risks and not afraid of injury, the ordinary Hunyuan da Luo Jingxian, I am afraid that it is not his opponent one-on-one. He was quick and precise, capable of killing him in one blow, and would never leave the opponent with the slightest chance. This kind of ruthless determination, which can only be honed in the bloody storm, made Subhuti and Zhen Yuanzi stunned. Moving from another place, they asked themselves that they couldn't do something like Roha. This seemingly innate fighting talent is not comparable to ordinary people at all. If Roha knew what the two were thinking, I'm afraid he would directly give them a blank eye. Shit fighting talent, his talent is forced out. If he is not strong, he will die. If he doesn't attack himself, he will definitely die. In order not to die, in order to be able to obtain the final victory, Roha did everything he could at the beginning, especially in the world of pirates. The scene of being seriously injured and dying did not know how many times he had experienced it. As long as it is a person who experiences such a scene every day, whether the enemy is killed or I am killed, I am afraid that they will grow up quickly. Hey, you two, don't be stunned, divide the spoils quickly. Roha waved his hands in front of the two of them, interrupting their wild thoughts, and once again put the Northern Xuanyuan water flag, close black lens bracket take it out. There are 5 innate spiritual treasures on the ancestor of Minghe, each of which is extraordinary. North Xuanyuan water control flag, as one of them, as well as Yuantu Abbey second sword, 12 grade Karma Guren, Sura Ming prison scythe, Shiranai Higui, can be described as extraordinary. Northern Xuanyuan controlling water flag has been introduced before, so I won't say much. Although this innate spiritual treasure is powerful, it is not what Roha wants. 12th grade Karma Guren is extremely powerful. This thing Roha is bound to get. After all, Jingxi Lotus Robe is placed here. If you want to advance into the legendary Chaos Treasure, it is indispensable. Yuantu Abbey Urjian, I also said before that Minghe's housekeeping magic weapon is extremely sharp and is definitely a treasure. Shira Hell Scythe dedicated to slaying the primordial spirit. The body and primordial spirit are damaged at the same time by its attack. The handle is connected to a chain. If the messenger is good, it is also strong and terrifying. Sura Nihigwe, although it is the lowest level among the treasures, its utility is not comparable to that of ordinary congenital spiritual treasures. Eating one of them can completely eliminate one's own karma. There are no 3 disasters and 5 kalpas in cultivation, and 1 attack can be used to attack. Karma sticks to God and falls into reincarnation. This particularity made Subhuti and Gen Yuanzi's eyes full of enthusiasm. After all, they did not have the Gurren karma on Roha's body, so having more karma is not a good thing. Several people in Minghe's subordinates are poor ghosts. With Minghe's character, even if he has a baby, he will definitely not use it for a few people. On the other hand, Caillou really had a lot of things on his body. In the pierced ears, there were 12 weapons: knives, spears, swords, halberds, axes, whips, mace, and hammers. Precious. Although it is a soldier of the Taoist, the material itself is very extraordinary. After all, he used to compete with Xuanyuan Wangdi for orthodoxy. He swept the southern Zanbu continent, and there were definitely not a few good materials. The 12th grade Karma Gurren is of great use to fellow Taoists, so it should belong to fellow Taoists. Subhuti nodded with a smile, and released the 12th grade Karma Gurren, and Yuantu Abi Erjian, his eyes fixed he stared at the Shira Nihigwe, released by Gen Yuanzi, and did not hide his thoughts at all. Hey, Subhuti, you've made it clear that you are going to rob me. Gen Yuanzi waved and released the Asura Hell Scythe, and Asura Nihigwe, and said something to Subhuti half-jokingly. Neither of you or I have the fire supernatural power of Luo Daoyu, and the spiritual treasure here is indeed unique. Subhuti frowned, and could understand Gen Yuanzi's thoughts. After all, both of them have Taoism under their sect. This kind of thing has a particularly great impact on a sect. Chapter 1705-Magical Treasure Chest. Eliminate one's karma. One is fast in cultivation, and the other is easy to avoid calamity. In cultivation, many times you are fighting for me, and fighting is inevitable. And between hands-on, with the improvement of the cultivation base, the scope of the spread is also gradually increasing, from birds and beasts to insects and insects. This kind of thing, the accumulation of small, has a fatal impact on the practitioner. Once it reaches a certain level, killing or calamity is the result of the death of the body. And if you have Shiranai Higui, you can easily remove the karma from your body. It can be said that as long as you cultivate the merits diligently, the obstacles in the practice will be reduced a lot. In the hearts of Subhuti and Gen Yuanzi, this middle-grade innate spiritual treasure is even more precious than the northern Xuanyuan controlling water flag. What's so embarrassing about this? If the two of you want to use the spiritual treasure, wouldn't you be reluctant? Roha put away the 12th-rank Karma Gurren, and looked at the two horns with a speechless expression. The two of them were stunned for a moment, and then they reacted in a flash. It seemed that the two of them really had nothing they couldn't borrow. Although the congenital spiritual treasure was precious, the friendship between the two was there, and it was no big deal to borrow it. Hinder. It's really troublesome, fellow Taoist Subhuti, although your supernatural powers are changeable, you still lack a bit of sharpness. You can take this Yuantu Abi Erjian, fellow Taoist Junyuanzi, your Earth Book stands. The defense is unparalleled on the ground, but once it enters the void, it is a bit boring. You can take this Northern Xuanyuan water control flag. Seeing that the two were still swaying, Roha waved his hand and directly took the two top-grade innate spirits. Bao tucked into the arms of the two. Although Gen Yuanzi didn't do anything in the whole process, Roha saw a treasure that attacked extremely sharply, Juju Hongyun scattering soul gourd. There was this treasure that was once held by Taoist Hongyun. Gen Yuanzi's attack is definitely stronger than Subhuti. Under such a distribution, the three of them can get the greatest improvement. Even if they have to do this in the future, the trio can cope with all kinds of situations. The two held the treasure, and they knew that this was the best distribution result. Without hesitation, they put the two treasures into the space magic treasure, and they will be sacrificed after returning. Taoist friends Zanpakuto is amazing, but it hasn't entered the innate after all. It's better to take this Asura Hell Scythe for self-defense. Gen Yuanzi thought about it and pushed the Asura Hell Scythe directly to Roha. After all, in this battle, it should be the first, and it should be 2 innate spiritual treasures. That's how it should be. Subhuti nodded with a smile, and had no objection to Gen Yuanzi's proposal. The stronger the combination of the 3 of them, the more favorable it would be for the competition for Hongmeng Ziqi in the future. Then I'll be disrespectful. Roha raised his eyebrows, turned his hand and put away the Asura Hell Scythe, and the innate spiritual treasure came to the door. Naturally there was no reason to push it out. The rest of the Asura Nehigwe is of great use to us, and it is not easy to distribute. Why don't the 3 of us share it? It is shared by the 3 factions. Anyway, we have no plans to use it against the enemy, only to disperse the industry. Power matters, even if they are shared, have little impact. Quote. Subhuti said after Roha put away the Shira Hell Scythe. Such a proposal was naturally affirmed by Roha and Gen Yuanzi. The sects of the 3 are not too big. Even if they share it, the baby will be completely transferred, and it will not have much impact at all. In the end, the 3 pushed and refused, and in the end, Suranai Higui was also kept by Roha. Shushan was right between Wuzhuangguan and Xiaoyu Kixing Cave. It would be more convenient for the 2 factions to use it. Of the 5 innate spiritual treasures, Roha won only 3, and the remaining 12 excellent acquired spiritual treasures were evenly distributed among the 3. It was full of pots. After that, Chiyu's body was also put away by Roha, thinking that it was used for refining blood essence. His harvest this trip started from 2 pieces of the supreme treasure chest, to 3 innate spiritual treasures, and 4 superb Hautian spiritual treasures. It is the most profitable. In the system warehouse, there is also a treasure chest of magical powers that has not been opened. No matter how it is calculated, this time it is not a loss to kill the ancestor of Minghe. System, open the magical treasure chest. Congratulations to the host for opening the treasure chest of supernatural powers and obtaining the top supernatural powers peeping at people. Peering into the sky and seeing the spirit, from the prehistoric world, it is the top supernatural power of the demon ancestor Rahu. With the name or the root as the guide, supplemented by the powerful mana, you can see where all beings are in the heavenly way, and understand their every move. Aware. Lying in a big slot, the top monitor of the 3 realms. Roha couldn't help but feel excited when he saw the supernatural power that was given out. The supernatural power of peeking at the sky did not come from Hongjun, but from Luahu, the ancestor of the demon. That is to say, even if he had the golden medal of fortune, he could not comprehend such magical powers. This magical power seems to be useless. It can only spy on the living beings in the world without being noticed by it. But don't forget what time it is, now that the competition for Hongmeng's purple energy has just begun, and all the great powers have come out one after another. As long as he has this magical power, no one can escape Roha's detection at all. No matter who gets the primordial violet chi, he can find it out in minutes. This time to complete the Heavenly Dao, the Heavenly Dao has produced a total of 5 Hongmeng purple chi. Shushan already has 1. But Roha still wants to take another one. Whether it is for Ao Kunshin or Zhao Linger, who has extraordinary qualifications, it is a good choice. Subhuti and Gen Yuanzi are almost certain to win the Hongmeng Purple Chi, and Roha is also happy to see it. Overthrow the rule of several great saints in the world of Journey to the West, or rely on these 2 best friends. This way of robbing Hongmeng Purple Chi and knowing the opponent's position means that he is invincible. According to Roha's speculation, the limit of heavenly saints is definitely not only the number of the ecliptic, but the next time he releases Hongmeng purple energy, God knows that he has to acquire the source power of several worlds. What time is it? And maybe he won't wait for the next time when the purple chi of Hongmeng appears, he will take the lead in attacking those saints. Subhuti and Gen Yuanzi are only 1 foot away from the saints, and they are also the best choice. 2 fellow Taoists, the competition for Hongmeng's purple energy has just begun, so I'm too eager to take action now. Why don't I just take the opportunity and make it like this? Roha opened his mouth and said to Zhen Yuanzi and Subhuti, intercepted the ancestor of Minghe, and directly obtained 2 fragments of the supreme treasure chest, which was the biggest gain for him. With peeping the sky and vision, the chaos caused by the purple chi of Hongmeng must be the time for him to make a lot of money. Chapter 1706-calm before the storm. Zhen Yuanzi and Subhuti intercepted and killed the ancestor Minghe, and this time it was a good harvest. Not only did they avenge their revenge, they also got rid of their hatred, but they also obtained a top-quality innate spiritual treasure. This kind of harvest has already surpassed the harvest of their thousands of years of cultivation, and the previous magic painting scroll also allowed the 2 to open up the road to a great harvest of spiritual materials and medicines. The 2 have only known Roha for more than 10 years. The successive gains made them believe in their hearts that it must be chosen by the Tao, and the saint of the Tao recognized by the Tao of heaven. With such good luck, those who follow him are destined to fly on the branch. Naturally, there is no objection to his proposal, blocking the road and cutting the path, making such a big profit. I am afraid no one will refuse. What's more, how could they resist the temptation of Hongmeng Purple Chi? When you reach the primordial realm, it is not so easy to calculate the whereabouts. If there is no inner existence, how should I grasp their whereabouts? Do you know who got the Hongmeng Purple Chi? Subhuti raised his doubts. Naturally, he wanted to participate in this battle to fight for the chance, but not to mention that the heavens were chaotic at this time. It was normal, and it was not so easy to calculate the whereabouts of a Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian matter. Zhen Yuanzi looked at Roha, and had a faint hunch in his heart. Since he dared to make such a suggestion, there must be a way to grasp the whereabouts of many powerful men. It's not difficult. I have a magical power. As long as I have its roots or names, I can spy on its whereabouts in the way of heaven. Not a saint can't be checked. There was a smile on Roha's face, and he opened his mouth and said, this peeping the sky supernatural power is really rare, and it is very different from most of the supernatural powers in the westward journey world. Subhuti and Zhen Yuanzi looked at each other, but their hearts were full of shock. They had never heard of it before, but there is such a heaven-defying supernatural power. The way of heaven has always been a restricted area for monks. Don't dare to get involved. And to spy on the traces of monks from the Tao of heaven, even if it is the honor of the saint, it will not be done easily. After all, if the order of the Tao of heaven is accidentally disturbed, even the honor of the saint will not be able to withstand the backlash of the Tao of heaven. But in the hearts of the 2, since Roha said this, he must have full confidence, and he is not the kind of person who exaggerates and exaggerates. Let's go back. If someone notices the blood sea change, it is likely that they will find it here. Roha saw the expressions of the 2 and said, but change the topic. Yeah, the 2 nodded. Zhen Yuanzi waved his arms in a row, and hid a tactic in his hand, and the layers of space restrictions around him began to slowly unravel. When it was set up, it took a full quarter of an hour to do everything possible, but when it was destroyed, it only took dozens of seconds from beginning to end. After the prohibition completely disappeared, Zhen Yuanzi activated the spatial supernatural power and directly opened up a passage leading directly to Shu Mountain. The 3 of them stepped into it and disappeared into this dark place. The surroundings returned to a silent state, and the yin and qi gradually began to fill the place, restoring it to the state before the battle. With only a radius of 500 miles, the ground has dropped a few hundred meters in vain, proving that there was a big battle here, and there are 2 powerhouses at the level of Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian who fell here. After Styx died, there was no body left. It was only the essence of the blood sea that gave birth to wisdom and turned into a human being. After death, it turned into a pool of blood and disappeared between the heavens and the earth. Above the sea of blood, there was a rain of blood, and such a scene has not appeared in hundreds of millions of years. After the death of Styx, the world will not accept its filthy body, and its final destination is to reincarnate. An ordinary drop of dirty blood in the sea of blood. As the blood rain descended, the originally thin sea of blood gradually became thicker and denser, full of corpses. The pattering rain of blood fell for 3 days, and the blood was scattered for millions of miles in the sea of blood. The monks in the three realms couldn't even notice. The Ashura family was completely wiped out, and the news of the death of the ancestor Minghe spread like wildfire in the three realms. It was inevitable that some monks would go to check after hearing it, and finally verified the authenticity of the news. The fall of Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian seems to be pouring a handful of cold water into everyone's hearts. Those who compete for Hongmeng's purple energy all have a lot of restraint for a while. Primordial fall, killing calamity, is an opportunity, but also a crisis. They have already begun to realize that this competition for the purple energy of Hongmeng must be a journey full of killing and blood stained the sky. No one wants to die, and the longer they live, the more reluctant they are to die. In a few days, the four waves of cultivators who were barely hanging behind Hongmeng Ziqi and chasing after Hongmeng Ziqi became defensive from each other, but restrain each other. On the bright side, Buddhism and Taoism seem to have reached some kind of tacit understanding. The four primordial purple chi that are still wandering, their family occupies too, and most of them follow closely. However, under Roha's peeking at the sky and seeing the spirit, it is clear that several of the 8 great bodhisattvas fell behind the Taoist people, and behind the Buddhist team, there are also people who explain and intercept the teaching. Figure. In the face of such things, the Jade Emperor has not been able to grasp it, and he is not qualified to fight for it. For example, the Demon Master Kunpeng is first-rate, and he cannot fight with Buddhism and Taoism on the surface, but he has been following in secret. When the opportunity arises, who is willing to give up easily? This kind of scene is undoubtedly something that Roha is happy to see. Although the forces of all parties are in a relatively calm state in a short time, as long as there is Hongmeng purple chi in the body of the monk, it will inevitably cause a huge fight. The scene at this time, like the tranquility before the storm, is completely temporary, and when it erupts again, it will only become more tragic. Because Shushan already possessed a piece of Hongmeng purple chi, in the eyes of outsiders, during this period of time, it has already entered a comprehensive alert. The guardian formation of the mountain gate is fully opened. Every other day, Qinglong, Baihu, Haoqilan, Shuangui, and even the newly arrived golden-winged phoenix Jinwang and Haoqilan Huohue will take turns to stand guard. Not only that, as the treasure of acquired merit, even the world of Journey to the West, the greatest treasure of acquired merit, Shushan flew up from the ground and stood directly in the sky. This kind of scene basically isolates the threat from the ground, and the level of alert is very strict. The three-legged Wupeng Wawan, Mo Zunlu, Ao Kunshin, and the talkative immortal demon baby Moro take turns in charge of the guardian of the mountain gate. And strive not to leave any flaws. Even so, in a few days, Roha still felt that someone was spying on the movements of Shushan in a hidden place. Chapter 1707-Burning Lamp Ancient Buddha. Mass, which bastard is secretly peeking at it? Roha had an indignant expression on his face, and his mouth was reciting. In the past few days, he has almost been using the magical power of peeping the sky to look at the three realms. The powerful movements of all parties. However, the surroundings of Shu Mountain have been peeped on several times. Fortunately, when the guardian formation is fully opened, all the peeping spiritual thoughts are blocked from the outside world. It's just that in the three realms, Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian Loya has watched it all over, but he has never been able to find out who the spying person is. In this situation, there are only two possibilities. One is that the spying person is the Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian who he does not know, and he can easily escape the reverse detection of his spiritual sense. The second is that the person who spied was originally a cultivator in the Deluo Jingxian realm, but he only possessed a magical power that could not be detected by the divine sense, so he could not be found by him. Deluo Jingxian of Journey to the West doesn't say much, but it's definitely not a lot. The magical powers of peering the sky and seeing spirit consume a lot. Even if he is a true cultivator of Roha Avenue, the cultivation level of Deluo Jingxian in the middle stage is not enough. It is possible to check the Deluo Jingxian all over. Damn, let me know who is hanging the young man to play, cramping and peeling the oil pan. Roha cursed fiercely, This sudden prying is really annoying. For several days, he couldn't concentrate on practicing. However, if people don't show their heads, Roha really has no good way. Zhou Tianxingxing's pupils are strong, but he looks around at a loss. It is really difficult to find out who spied on him among thousands of living beings. Tens of thousands of miles away in Shushan, in a dark underground space, a bald monk gently sighed, and the spiritual treasure in his hand turned into a streamer and drilled into his body, with a somewhat heavy expression on his face, turned around and spoke. This Shu mountain is really well prepared, and Roha is also very alert. Under the full guard formation, the situation cannot be detected at all. Hongmeng Purple Chi, only one of the 5 has fallen into the house now. The ancient Buddha instructed to act with care. Since the Hongmeng Purple Chi fell on the disciples of Shushan, it would not be able to become a saint for a while, so we don't have to worry at all. The other bald figure saw that his companion had completed the detection, and continued to maintain the supernatural power in his hand, daring not to slack off. Yes, I'll communicate with Gu Buddha later. The monk who had just spied on Shushan looked a little relieved. After thinking about it, he opened his mouth and said something. He sat cross-legged on the futon and began to meditate on the scriptures. The 2 of them were here under the assignment of the ancient Buddha of Burning Lamp. Although Burning Lamp was going out of the mountain privately, they have been rooted in Buddhism for thousands of years. Fortunately, there are several loyal subordinates. On the bright side, Randang quietly followed behind the Daomen. With the convenience of being the deputy leader of the teaching and knowing the methods of Daomen, he easily covered his figure and restrained his own breath. 1. But in fact, he dispatched his confidant subordinates, Kong Ju and Kong Shu, to monitor Shushan's every move here, and strive to stay in the chaos. As a high-ranking Buddhist, the identity of the lamp is not unremarkable. He naturally knows the news that the Tathagata can know, and even the Tathagata does not know, he can also know a lot. Roha's true cultivation base, Ruo had seen it before, and the light was naturally clear. His realm was not too high. Compared with the 2, he was wise enough to think that Hongmeng Purple Chi is the easiest to get here. This kind of sanctification is an irresistible temptation for every cultivator. In order to become sanctified, Randang took great pains, and even sacrificed his worth to worship under the sect of Yuanshi Tianzun. It's a pity that Yuanshi Tianzun was extremely dissatisfied with his character good at digging into the camp. During the battle of conferring the gods, he repeatedly put the black pot on the lamp holder, making him have to choose to quit the Taoist sect. From the perspective of the burning lamp, in the battle of conferring the gods, he did nothing wrong. He even devoted himself to the teaching of Zen, and did many things that go against Taoism. Little. However, in the eyes of the sectarians, the deaths of Xiao Zhen and Deng Hua, the deaths of Fang Bai and Fang Shang, the deaths of Han Dulong and Shui Aihu, one after another, were not understood, which really made Randang feel cold. At the very beginning, the relationship between the Taoist Randang and the 12 Golden Immortals of Chanzhou can be said to be a master-disciple relationship. In the original book, when Randang first appeared on the scene, the 12 Golden Immortals went down to the reed tent to greet and salute. When they learned that Taoist Randang came to take over all the military and political power, the 12 Golden Immortals were also overjoyed, and there was no fear at all. This was definitely a high level of trust. It is a pity that after repeated misunderstandings, Yuanshi Tianzun let him take the blame again and again. He had words of suffering, and coupled with his loyalty to the teaching, he finally chose to keep silent to preserve the majesty of the leader, Yuanshi Tianzun. In the end, this continuous misunderstanding and suffocation in the heart, as well as the disappointment of Yuanshi Tianzun, led to the conversion of the lamp to Buddhism and became the ancient Buddha of the lamp. But it's a pity that the 2 are not good birds. They will play around with the lights and only use them as a bargaining chip to weaken the Daomen and strengthen themselves. In the midst of the accumulated depression, Randang really has no loyalty to Buddhism, just to find a place to live. However, these things are completely unimportant to Roha. He only knows that whoever dares to come over and move the Hongmeng Purple Chi of Shushan must have it back and forth. 8 days passed in a flash again, during which Roja went into the myriad world spiritual garden, for a long time, specifically to cultivate Kai Ren Kai Ma. After all, this thing is related to his harvest. Dudu can use the essence of one body to activate the bloodline secret technique, which greatly increases the birth record of Juran Zima. With only a 1/10 chance, with less than 100 Zima, the luck is overwhelming. 10 Kai Man Kai Mas appeared. The 10 Juran Zima Lingzi had just been born, and they saluted Roja and Dudu. After all, there are no 2 of them. I am afraid that it is extremely difficult for them to generate Lingzi. Let alone 10, it is 1, and the difficulty is also different. Good luck. With the existence of these 10 Juran Zima, the myriad world spirit garden map suddenly became lively. Under the unified arrangement of Dudu, each Juran Zima was in charge of 8 Zima, responsible for an area. In a total of 11 areas, the extremely important innate spiritual roots were all taken over by Dudu himself, and with the appearance of many companions, the smile on Dudu's small face was obviously a little bigger. Correspondingly, because of the division of the area, the myriad world spirit garden map not only increased the growth of elixir again, but also ushered in a leap in the scale of elixir. Chapter 1708-GU Poison Gourd. There is a vast space in the myriad world spirit garden. In the past, although Dudu tried his best, he could only manage 100 acres of land in the center. After all, spirit herbs and medicines were different from crops. If you manage it properly, it may become a waste material directly. At this time, 10 little guys have been added, and all the area in the myriad world spirit garden map has been effectively used. It can be said that the spiritual medicine produced in the future can even approach 10 times that of the past. Dudu jumped from a hard labor to a foreman. He is only responsible for managing several kinds of innate spiritual roots. In addition to arranging 10 Juran Zima to manage the medicine garden every day, the rest of the time is either to practice or to chatting with how to. The small life can be described as extremely comfortable. Roja, who had been annoyed by the peeps who were hidden in the dark, originally planned to lure snakes out of their holes and fish them out to kill them, but Dudu notified them at this time and grafted them on the amethyst grapevine. The green-skinned gourds are ripe. Originally, Dudu had expected that the green-skinned gourd would mature in just 1 month after grafting, but the power of innate spiritual roots to absorb energy was far beyond that of ordinary spiritual roots. It has been several months since the green-skinned gourd was planted, and the amethyst grapevine was almost sucked dry by it, and the green-skinned gourd was officially declared ripe. Roja came to hear the news. After picking this green gourd, he couldn't wait to return to Mount Shu. One of the gourds produced by the vines, one of the 10 innate spiritual roots, is born with extraordinary power and will guard the great formation a little. After opening a gap, Tiandao has already given birth to a response. Heaven covering rod, go. Roja had long expected that the birth of this green-skinned gourd would cause a reaction from heaven, and directly use the monster clan treasure, sky covering rod. Now, with the emergence of Hongmeng Purple Chi, the murderous intent has come to the 3 realms, and the secret of heaven is already chaotic. Once the sky covering stick covers it up a little, no one will perceive the movement. The birth of congenital spiritual treasures is different from the refining of acquired spiritual treasures. This kind of treasure is born in heaven and earth, and the Tao of heaven will agree to its rules. The monks only need to follow the rules and throw out suitable spiritual materials. Of course, this is the conventional way of turning the 10 innate spiritual roots into innate spiritual treasures. Different from it, there are innate spiritual treasures that are purely natural and do not contain any human power at all. In the ancient times, the legendary Chaos Cauldron, which was transformed into the innate, could be used to directly refine the innate spiritual treasure, but that thing only existed in the legend, and it was too far away from Roja. The birth of the innate spirit treasure is far less important to Heavenly Tao than what Roja has done several times. After all, no matter how strong the innate spirit treasure is, the consumption is very limited. An inexplicable rule descended from the sky. Roja now has 50 Tao rhymes. Although he does not know very well about various rules, he can also understand a general idea. After sensing the particularity of this rule, his face was full of weird expressions, and his heart was full of pain. What's the situation? It's actually the power of Gu poison. Is this Nima something of the same level as the innate spirit treasure? In Roha's heart, the innate spiritual treasure should have the power of the innate spiritual treasure, especially the gourd vine, one of the 10 innate spiritual roots. Each of the previous gourds is very extraordinary. 99 Scattered Soul Gourd was Hongyun's housekeeper at the beginning. Because of the addition of a suitable innate spiritual material, Ganji's red gauze, it became a combination of offense and defense, and even increased the rank of Lingbao, which is directly the best innate spiritual treasure. Taisheng Laojun's purple gold gourd is a high-grade congenital spiritual treasure. It is usually the thing that holds the medicinal pills, but it contains the universe, and can be divided into countless Zumi meson spaces without interfering with each other. Even as long as someone is called to life, that person agrees, and under the Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian, he will be directly included in it, and it will turn into pus in a moment. There is also Taoist Luya's Slaying the Immortal Gourd, which can be said to be invincible for beheading people's heads and souls, Nua's Magic Gourd, which restrains all the demons in the world, and the Tongtian Cult Master's Water and Fire Gourd, which contains innate divine water and divine fire. One by one, how come you came to yourself, and lowered this half-baked poison rule? Fake. Roha scolded secretly in his mouth, with a deep dissatisfaction on his face, but the matter had come to this point, but there was no way to change it. After thinking about it, he took out a tinkling from the system warehouse. Lots of stuff. A long time ago, he got a mess of poison from the sect master of the quartz refining sect. In the world of a Chinese ghost story, he himself extracted the poison powder from the iron-backed golden thread centipede, which can increase the power of the poison. The Gu worm in the world of Legend of Sword and Fairy, and the poison sac on the poisonous spider who forgot its name, and the 5 poison pearl Roha were thrown out together. This Gu poison rule is incorporated into the green gourd, and the things that Roha pulls out are not rejected, and they are all absorbed. This kind of dead horse is used as a living horse doctor. Random behavior, the entire westward journey world, I am afraid that only he can do it. After all, in his heart, the rules of Gu poison are just chicken feathers. He can completely ignore the poison of Lu Yu, the god of plague. No matter how strong he is, he can be strong. The rules are incorporated into the spirit treasures, and above the spirit treasures, there are flashes of magnificent luster, but they are constantly brewing, absorbing and evolving. Seeing this, Roha put away the sky-covering stick angrily, and closed the guardian array of Shushan. The long-awaited innate spiritual treasure is actually such a dry egg, and it really makes him unable to lift the slightest bit. Interest. Holding the Gu poison gourd that was still brewing in one hand, Roha turned around and returned to the room, and placed it directly on the soft couch. Just as he was about to practice, he saw that his palm turned into a bright green color. Damn it, I'm poisoned, Roha exclaimed subconsciously, almost jumping up from the soft couch. He is now a middle-stage Deluo Jinxian cultivation base, and he is also a true Taoist cultivator, almost no weaker than the existence of Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian in the middle stage will actually be poisoned. After that, a strange itching and numbness suddenly became unbearable pain, as if 10,000 insects were devoured into Roha's heart, and in the body, a green luster, like a plague, quickly infected him. Body of. Roha's mind moved the immortal force to attack, trying to force it out of the body, but the immortal force was also quickly infected by this green poison, and it had the momentum to invade the whole body. Buzz tilde. The Gu poison gourd on the soft couch instantly burst into a colorful poisonous mist, shrouding Roha in it. All kinds of strange symptoms of poisoning appeared on his body one after another, such as retching in the mouth, severe pain in the internal organs, poisonous bubbles on the surface of the body, numbness in the mouth and tongue, and he could not even speak. Chapter 1709-Gu King. Gu poison gourd is given by the rules of heaven, and naturally it is not comparable to idle Gu Po. No matter how strong Lu Yu, the god of plague, the magic weapon in his hand is nothing but an acquired spiritual treasure. At this time, the moment Gu Poison Gourd took shape, his power exploded directly, and Roja, who was caught off guard, was directly hit. The breath of the congenital top-quality Lingbao is undoubtedly revealed. The strong wind is howling in Roja's room. The terrifying breath is like a poisonous place after the wild chaos, and the whole room has turned into a poison pool. Congenital top-quality Lingbao, Sao Nima. Roja cursed vaguely, his cheeks swollen like a toad. He beat his spirits, played a Taoist tactic in his hand, and engraved on the Gu Poison Gourd own imprint. Cross-legged on the ground, the immortal energy infected by the highly poisonous burst out, forcibly taking the Gu Poison Gourd into his body. If he was poisoned by the innate spiritual treasure he created, it would definitely become the laughingstock of the three realms. No matter how thick-skinned Roja is, he really feels that he can't bear it. If he dies, he will probably be revived by anger. After all, this reputation is definitely unique to the three realms. As the Gu Poison Gourd was brought into the body, the poisoning symptoms on Roja's body began to slowly recede, the poison bubbles slowly disappeared, and the poisonous sores gradually healed. After a stick of incense had passed, a faint suction began to be emitted from his body, and the surrounding poison rushed towards his body, and the room returned to its normal state in a moment, as if nothing had happened. Poison enough, ruthless enough. Roja opened his eyes, with a little palpitations on his face. This Gu Poison Gourd is definitely the first poisonous treasure in the three realms, and there is no second copy at all. The things thrown into the Gu Poison Gourd earlier were all fused by the gourd, and the rules inside it became even more terrifying, and the level of the innate top-grade spiritual treasure could already be seen. Inheriting the characteristics of the 5 poison pearls, the master of the magic weapon is immune to all poisons, and the gourd can also emit all kinds of highly poisonous, ranging from the deadly poison of Jinxian touch, to the laxative for diarrhea, and the dizziness that makes people drowsy. Drugs, addictive drugs that make people feel uncomfortable, it is almost all-encompassing. Among them, the poisonous gas is self-generated, and even with the passage of time, the poisonous gas will continue to accumulate and become more and more powerful. Roja has just tested it, and when Da Luo Jinxian encounters it, he will immediately react. Even if it is Hunyuan De Luo Jinxian, if it is shrouded by poisonous miasma without any defensive means, it will show a poisoning state in minutes, and this poison is really terrifying. Even immortal power and spiritual sense will be quickly infected. Poison. It's really poisonous. And this is only one effect of Gu Poison Gourd. Its second effect is that it can attract trapped people, Jinxian and below. There is no resistance at all, and the magic trick will be included in it. Even if it is De Luo Jinxian, if there is no protective treasure, the mana is not strong enough, and it cannot resist the suction of the gourd. Although this second effect is strong, it is still a little worse than Laojun's purple gold gourd, but these are not the real effects of Gu Poison Gourd, they can only be regarded as additional functions. Its real strongest ability is to raise Gu. A collection of 99 5 poisonous Gu insects, after 7,749 days of competition and tempering, can give birth to a Gu King. Although this Gu King is incapacitated all his life, if Hunyuan De Luo Jinxian is bitten by it, it can't be better, and even if it is the honor of the saint, if it is accidentally bitten, it will be constrained. King Gu. Roja had a somewhat excited look on his face, and he was pleasantly surprised. The 5 poisonous Gu insects were spiders, scorpions, snakes, centipedes, and toads. There were only 99, and they were not very difficult to find. Besides, the Anu and the Zhang clan he brought back from the immortal sword world this time are not fuel-efficient lamps. They are very proficient in Miao Yang's Gu poison technique. The two have been in this world for so long, and the poisonous insects in Shushan are thousands of miles away. Let the two collect it over and over again. For this reason, in the past, Roja had to divide a courtyard for the two of them in the back mountain. After all, the dense poisonous insects, ordinary disciples had to be scared to death on the spot. It is not too easy for Roja to gather 99 of each of the 5 poisons, and even he has already started YY. If he can gather millions of GU kings, will the sage detour when he sees him? As soon as the million kings came out, the saint retreated, which is a bit interesting. With a satisfied smile on his face, Roha got up and walked towards the place where Anu and Zhang were. In the past, he looked down on the GU poison technique. After all, in his heart, he had no potential to deal with a Tai true immortal or a bottom-tier golden immortal. But now that he got this GU poison gourd, he had no choice but to be exactly the 3,000 great avenues. All of them could prove the primordial essence. No one is not strong. The difference between strength and weakness only depends on the person who uses it, whether he will use it or not. This road has gone to the extreme. Little centipede. Come on, get rid of the little centipede, and you will be poisonous. How can you be so stupid? As soon as he walked into the yard, Roha saw Anu sitting cross-legged on the ground with his eyes closed, with a tightly closed black altar in front of him. In this case, even a fool can guess that he is refining GU, but Anu's refining method is obviously relatively low level. Whether this kind of altar-sealing behavior can breed GU insects depends entirely on luck. Anu. Roha saw the chick's engrossed appearance, with a bit of helplessness on his face, and he had deliberately zoomed in when he entered the door. Can you react a little bit? Hey, Master Shanran. When Anu heard someone call his name, he hurriedly accepted the divine sense, saw Roha in front of him, with a bright smile on his face, got up and saluted. 5 poisonous things, help me get 99 of each, I have some use. Roha scratched the tip of his nose helplessly when he heard this special title, and said something. This Anu likes to call people messy names, such as, Mama Nanman, Master of Saint Ant, Grandma Zhang, Master Immortal. Of course, only the people close to her heart have this kind of treatment, and ordinary people, Anu, don't even bother to use her exclusive title. Is Master Immortal also going to refine GU? I'm looking forward to it. Anu was stunned for a moment, a bright smile appeared on his face, and he took out a small bamboo tube from the courtyard. There is a poisonous insect in it. There are 495 large and small bamboo tubes, which made Roha's cheeks twitch uncontrollably. He thought to himself, it seems that he has to make some space magic weapons for Anu and Jiangxi to contain poisonous insects. Chapter 1710-Refining GU. Jiangxi is now chatting with Zhao Linger, who has finished training. Roha thought in his heart that this GU worm can even break the golden body of the saint, and he has no intention of caring about other things. He waved his hands to put away these GU worms. After a while, I'll give you a few magic weapons for refining GU. By the way, I'll give you a secret technique for refining GU. Roha said, turned around and was about to leave, thinking of watching it in the supernatural power, peeping the sky. When the news arrived, one more sentence was added. He doesn't have any secret techniques for refining GU or anything, but there are still some in the 3 realms. That plague god Lu Yu is one of the outer disciples of the intercepting sect. Although he was on the conferred god list, Halai was also in the golden immortal realm back then. Because of the special secret method of practice, and the magic weapon in his hand is very good at group attack, he was also intercepted by the sect and arrested the strong man, and now he has joined the snatch of Hongmeng Ziqi. Wanting to kill a big Luo Jingxian is really not difficult for Roha, and this kind of monk who has been on the conferred god list, has a great weakness, that is, the lack of true spirit. A ray of true spirit is controlled by the function bang, in the function bang. If it encounters the magic weapon that attacks the primordial spirit, it will definitely suffer a big loss. Asura Hell Scythe, it hurts the body and hurts the soul at the same time. This thing can kill Lu Yu in minutes. Naturally, there will be no shortage of the secret art of refining GU. And even if you don't kill Lu Yu, the god of plague, you can find clues in the golden badge of fortune, as long as you have the will, and the worst thing is, you can always find out the innate level refining method attached to the GU poison gourd. Get some insights. Yeah, Anu nodded again and again, his face full of expectations. In his heart, Roha is omnipotent, a fairy with magical powers, and there is nothing that can't be done. Much better to use. Desperately wanting to start refining this GU King in order to add a unique trick to defeating the enemy, Roja returned to the room without much delay. Spiders, centipedes, snakes, toads, and scorpions. There are 5 types of highly poisonous objects, each with 99. When Anu and Jiangxi were choosing poisons, they would not be ambiguous. That kind of extremely poisonous thing. There are also a lot of alien species. GU Poison Gourd is a top-quality congenital spiritual treasure. After the initial sacrifice and refining, it can only be used reluctantly, and it is even difficult to exert the power of 1 or 2 magical treasures. This kind of thing is water grinding time, and there is no hurry, but Roja decided to sacrifice and refine this GU King first. With this trick, let alone other things, on the one hand, there is absolutely no problem with Yin people. In order to prevent the fierce snatch of the Hongmeng purple energy on the way to the sacrifice, Roja divided dozens of clones at a time, and the 3 worked together to complete the birth of the GU King. No delay. And Roja himself is still monitoring the movements in the 3 realms, not to mention other things. During this period of time, it really made his peeping the sky vision spirit, supernatural powers enter the realm very quickly, not only by luck, but even at will. You can switch who you want to watch at any time. It's just that Hongmeng Ziqi is about a predestination method. Many times, the reason why Hongmeng Ziqi wanders in the 3 realms is because there is no suitable host. If you find this lodger, it will be directly integrated into Hong Yu's body, just like Hong Yu's body. Time passed by day, and under such procrastination, the whole person Roja looked at became irritable. The most important thing is that the people who have been spying on the movements of Shushan recently are spying more and more frequently. This kind of hidden peeping, others can't feel it, but as a true cultivator of the Tao, he can feel it clearly. At most, he peeped at him 6 times a day. The people under the sage, according to Roja's thoughts, will definitely not stare at Shushan at this time. After all, everyone knows that Shushan has a big backer, and even has their own calculations. One is just a piece of Hongmeng purple chi, and there are 4 outside, and they can't go up. Bad luck. But apart from the sages, he really couldn't think of a few people who had the ability to spy on Shushan without him being aware of it. Such hidden skills are not something ordinary people can have. Dong 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 tilde. Just when Roja was upset, there was a knock on the door, and the girl Hu Yuer quietly appeared outside the door. Now that Hu Yuer's cultivation base has entered the realm rapidly, he has reached the threshold of breaking through the golden immortal. It's just that she has not yet become a 9-tailed celestial fox, but it has made this girl a little anxious recently. Master, can Yuer come in? Hu Yuer's voice came, with a bit of disappointment in her tone. Recently, Yang Chan came to the top, and the practitioners of the Tao have also approached the peak of the Tai True Immortal, and the practitioners of the Tao have steadily improved to in the early stage of Tai True Immortal. The pressure in her heart doubled. Not only that, recently, Chai Miaoling has started to retreat, ready to break through the realm of Jingxian. Ni Xiaochen and Xiaowei were originally not low, and now they have reached the peak of Tai True Immortal. Even the Red Peony has broken through the realm of the Golden Immortal, and is consolidating her cultivation in the Juyao Xingqian Pagoda, and the new Zhao Linger, in a short period of time, has also changed from the late stage of Tai True Immortal to the peak of Tai True Immortal. Hu Yuer was about to cry in a hurry, but her bloodline could not be improved. If she forcibly broke through, her potential would be greatly reduced, and the gap between her and the girls would definitely widen in the future. Clear Lengjing has recently become a true immortal. In fact, after she became a loose immortal before, she obtained the memory of Lengjing before the third world. Facing Roja, she always seemed to be dodging. Not to mention Jiyu Ruotong, after returning to the mountain from Roja, he didn't even get out of that 9 shining star tower, which made the last forced kiss of the opening conditions of this welfare treasure box impossible. However, his cultivation is very fast in entering the realm. The way of Yuanying sword cultivation is really taking advantage of it. The cultivation is improved faster than that of Lengjing, and it is already the pinnacle of true immortal cultivation. Come in, what are you wronged? Tell me. Roha waved his sleeves, the door opened, and he looked at Huyur who walked in, with a smile on his face. No, I just think Huyur is stupid. Huyur said no, but the expression on her face was full of grievance. After Yingying made 1,000 blessings, she stood with her head lowered. You're still stupid. Saying this will stop other people from living. Don't you know how many fox girls from Qingqiu in Shushan regard you as the object of envy? Roha chuckled and shook his head, knowing that Huyur was under a lot of pressure. On the one hand, his blood was stagnant, and he was a little restless. On the other hand, he desperately hoped to improve his combat power and help him. Chapter 1711-6 Wing Ji Yu King. It's different. Huyur pouted, her 2 jade hands constantly kneading the front of her clothes. How many training resources do ordinary maids on Mount Shu have? Although compared to Qingqiu or other sects, Shushan maids' cultivation resources are even more than the inner disciples of other sects, but the cultivation resources of Huyur and others can scare others to death. From Tao enlightenment tea to barrier-breaking pills, to various medicinal pills to assist cultivation, as well as large quantities of spirit fruits, all are in unlimited supply. With such abundant cultivation resources, the bloodline has not yet been able to break through to the level of the 9-tailed celestial fox. Huyur was really disappointed in herself. What do you think about? My Huyur is so smart, maybe she is in a good mood, and her bloodline can be advanced. Roha shook his head with a smile, raised his hand and put Huyur in his arms. In the face of this sudden intimacy, Huyur's figure was a little stiff, and there was an obvious surprise on her pretty face. Before, Roha had never taken the initiative to be so close to him. Feeling the sense of security brought by a solid chest, Huyur's originally low mood improved a lot in an instant, and looked up at Roha dumbfounded, with a little tenderness and obsession in her eyes. Master, can Huyur ask a question? Huyur gently hooked Roha's waist with his backhand. VV's expression on his face flickered, and he spoke in a low voice. Go ahead. Why doesn't the master have sex with Huyur? Huyur gritted her teeth. A girl with yellow flowers, it takes a lot of courage to ask this question, and she also held back for too long before she couldn't help but speak. After all, this doubt was like a thorn in his heart. As one of the first members to come to Shushan, even when Ni Shaochen was eaten, she still maintained her jade-like body, which really puzzled her. When Yuan Yin is broken, isn't it more difficult for you to become a 9-tailed fox? Roha scratched the tip of his nose, but he didn't expect to hear this question and tell the truth. If it wasn't for this girl's bloodline breakthrough, she had extremely high requirements in all aspects. Once her Yuan Yin was broken, it would be more difficult to become a 9-tailed celestial fox. You must know that this girl looks petite, but her body is really good. She seems to be able to pinch the water out of the skin, plus this natural light charm, she is definitely the best among stunners. Really? Huyur was stunned for a moment, with a somewhat confused look on her face. She had thought that Roha didn't like her slightly plump figure, or that she didn't like her slightly punched breasts, but never thought it would be the reason. Will I tell you a lie? Roha chuckled and pinched Huyur's nose. It's really hard to guess what a woman is thinking, even if he has a lot of daughters, but there are many things that you really can't guess. Master, why didn't you tell me earlier? I'm ignoring you. I'm going to practice. Huyur's cheeks suddenly turned red, her eyes revealed a strong joy, and she broke out of her arms with a sigh. And he took 2 steps and ran to the door, and after turning back with a provocative look, he ran away without a trace. Fuck, run away when you light the fire. Roha muttered silently, looking at his little brother who already had the intention of rising. His mouth was slightly helpless. What's going on here? This girl just came to escape, and she went to find other people at this time. It's a bit unfair to the other women, isn't it? Buzz tilde. Just when Roha was full of unhappiness, the GU poison gourd in the side hall began to tremble at an extreme speed. 495 GU worms in front and back had already started to fight frantically in it. The initial fight was undoubtedly extremely tragic. Under this kind of survival of the fittest, the 396 GU worms soon died, leaving the strongest 99. At this time, the inner space in the GU poison gourd directly isolates the 99 GU worms, and the rich heaven and earth aura converges towards the GU poison gourd, which also begins to produce extremely concentrated dramas. Poison, for 99 GU worms to absorb. The vibration of this innate spiritual treasure was caused by absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and condensing the poison. Under the poison, these GU worms began to undergo amazing changes. Some became extremely strong, and their bodies expanded rapidly, while others became smaller, with harder carapaces, and some gave birth to wings, and their fangs became radiant. There are various changes, but the 99 GU worms are all rapidly becoming stronger, and Roja even feels that this kind of GU worm can now threaten ordinary loose immortals. After 3 full days, these GU worms were released again, and their appearance had already undergone tremendous changes. As soon as the 99 GU worms met, they began to fight again. This fight didn't end as easily as before. It lasted for 2 days, and there were 21 GU worms left, which became the winners of this round, and then began to nourish and train. This poison is a bit of a doorway. Roja has been on the sidelines the whole time, seeing that the poison absorbed by these 5 poisons is different every time, he said thoughtfully. In the 3rd round of fighting the remaining 9, this time that GU poison gourd no longer released a highly poisonous nourishment, but instead poured a lot of spiritual energy into the GU worms, and there were things like runes and spells that began to be engraved on the GU worms. On the worm. In the 4th round of fighting the remaining 5, the 5 GU worms have already shown extraordinary visions. In Roja's perception, I am afraid that Jinxian will turn around and leave when he sees it. During the continuous sacrifice and nourishment, the 5 GU worms became more and more powerful. The last round of competition began, and each of these 5 GU worms was already at the level of aliens from heaven and earth. After fighting for 8 days, the final GU king won. The failed GU worms all ate their corpses, and this mutated GU worm also started the final sacrifice from the GU poison gourd. What is this? 6 wings, golden knots, red teeth, yellow feet, pink tentacles, colorful tails. What kind of centipede should be classified? Roja looked at the last-born, full of fierce looks, like a wild desolate. The beast-like centipede said something with a slightly tingling scalp. This thing is not cute no matter how you look at it. It seems to be highly poisonous, and it is the kind of poisonous thing that can no longer be poisoned. From it, Roja can actually feel a dangerous atmosphere, which shows the drama of its toxicity. For 7 and 49 days, Roja watched the birth of this GU king centipede all the way while watching the situation of the big men snatching the violet chi of Hongmeng. Forget it, let's call it 6 wings. In the end, Roja smacked his lips, gave a random name, shook the GU poison gourd, and released it. Chapter 1712 I'm going to vomit. After the 6-winged centipede flew out of the GU poison gourd, it flew in the air in front of Roja, and it had a slender body of less than an inch, and it looked quite pocket-sized. No, it looks quite big in the gourd. Roja murmured, his face was full of egg pains, and it took 49 days to co-author the congenital treasure. Out of such a small bean. Buzz tilde. Although this 6-footed centipede looked a little ugly, it seemed to have a simple intelligence. When he heard Roja's words, his wings swayed rapidly, and his body instantly became more than 2 meters long. Son, come back soon, I'm going to vomit. Roja suddenly saw the 6-winged centipede that had grown hundreds of times larger, and hurriedly said, the 6-winged after the enlargement was really ugly to a certain level. Golden festival, red teeth, yellow feet, pink tentacles, colorful tail, after 100 times magnification, they don't match at all. It looks like a mashup, as ugly as it is, and the colors will gather together after this thing is reduced. I feel that when I zoom in, it is simply ugly and shocking. Kick, ka, ka, ka. The 6-winged pair of teeth collided, making a sound of grievance, gradually shrinking, and once again becoming less than an inch. Ugly is still not said. Roja rolled his eyes. He was psychic, but he could easily feel what the six-winged centipede wanted to express. Buzz tilde. Just as Roja and Gu King Lu Kai were discussing how ugly they were, a wave of spiritual thoughts came to the outside of the Shushan protective formation again. Paralyzed, there is no end to it. Grandson, don't let Lao Su catch you. Roja's figure flashed, and he appeared directly outside the Shushan defensive formation. Nearly 100,000 miles are within its perception. However, the spiritual sense that had just perceived Shushan disappeared without a trace after it appeared. There was no trace of it in a radius of 100,000 miles. Not even the slightest trace was left. This is not the first time that Roja has been forced to go crazy. During this period of time, the disciples with outstanding talent began to prepare for the calamity one after another, and even the disciples who originally had the foundation of cultivation began to climb the crossing the tribulation platform, crossing the calamity outside the guardian array. This exploration has become more and more frequent. Ka, 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 ka. Because the six wings were very close to Roja, they were taken out when they used fast to appear outside the formation. At this time, the double teeth collided. But it made a strange sound. Roja heard the sound of Lu Wing, and secretly wondered in his heart, this ugly guy actually said that he smelled the food. Crack it. The six-winged centipede danced again and again, swaying its body like a puppy wagging its tail and begging for pity, obviously begging it to let it go out for food. Roja frowned secretly, and couldn't help but raise a doubt in his heart. He pointed to the ground, stationed near Shushan, and already formed the demon clan and human clan of the village and town. Crack it. Lu Kai shook his head again and again, his dense yellow feet pointed to the southeast. Fuck, go, Roja whispered in his mouth, and his spiritual sense swept the southeast direction, without saying a word, and issued an order directly to Six Wings. In his spiritual sense, 100,000 miles to the southeast, apart from some ordinary demon cultivators, there is not even a human town. It is a completely barren and primitive land. There are some poisonous insects and beasts, but Six Wings can see that thing. As soon as Roja's order was issued, Six Wings disappeared in front of him. This extremely fast speed was not weaker than that kind of escape technique. Ugly is ugly, but it's really not slow to fly. Muttered in his mouth, Roja's eyes narrowed slightly, urging Shining to follow behind Lu Wing. The Six Wings really didn't waste the name Roja gave. The flying speed is actually the same as that of Shushan, the three-legged Wupeng of Deluo Jingxian. You must know that the three-legged Wupeng bloodline is special. Among the Deluo Jingxian, the flying speed is definitely one of the best, and even many Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian may not be as fast as him. In just a few breaths, the six-winged centipede stopped at a high speed in front of a mountain, and it turned into a length of more than 10 meters in an instant. Bang! The earth and rocks splashed, and even the hard boulders could not resist the impact of the six-winged centipede. Between the opening and closing of the giant teeth, the gravel collapsed and digged towards the mountainside at extreme speed. Although he has no cultivation base, the Six Wings are a different species produced by the best innate spiritual treasures. The body is hard and almost comparable to the top acquired spiritual treasures. When breaking the ground, it is very fast. It's a different kind of centipede. Run! An exclamation came from the mountains. A bald monk in the Golden Immortal Realm and a monk who was only a real immortal Tai flew out of the mountains with an escape light. Seeing that the food was forced out, Six Wings made a humming sound, and the 6 pairs of wings unfolded, turning into a rainbow light and flying up. Buddhist. 6 wings. Roja hurriedly opened his mouth, but the speed of the 6 wings was too fast. At this time, he already fit and threw himself on a monk, and the giant teeth were directly inserted into his body. Hearing Roja's cry, Lu Wing was so stiff that he did not dare to move. As the owner of the innate spiritual treasure, Gu Poison Gourd, he had an unparalleled pressure on it, and he could even decide his life or death with a single thought. The Tai Junxian realm monk who was pinned by 6 wings was poisoned and died without any resistance at all, and he also transformed into his original appearance, a moth at the end. This last moth is a different species of heaven and earth. It is born to block the perception of spiritual sense, and its wings are even more charming. It is born with two kinds of magical powers, both of which are extraordinary. Seeing the appearance of the last moth, Roja's eyes instantly became extremely gloomy, and he finally knew why. For nearly 2 months, he has never been able to detect who was peeping. A little guy in the realm of Tai Real Immortal and a big guy in the realm of Golden Immortals actually made people upset for 2 months. This is simply a great shame. 6 Wings ate it, Luo Yasin said, no longer caring about the Buddhist identities of the two. What's more, for 2 months and hundreds of snoops, the two have absolutely no chance of surviving today. Old ancestor, spare your life, old ancestor, spare your life. I have no choice but to wait. The monk in the Golden Immortal realm saw Roja's figure, and he didn't dare to have the idea of running away at all, and knelt directly on the auspicious clouds. Kowtow again and again. The stars in Roja's eyes turned, and at this time, he also saw through the body of this person. It was clearly a mole cricket that became a sperm, and insects have always been rare, and this mole cricket has become a sperm. However, spider spirits, centipede spirits, scorpion spirits, and even pippa spirits and stone spirits are all there. It's not bad for this mole cricket. It's just a mole cricket spirit in the Golden Immortal realm. Can it detect Shushan, 30,000 miles away? Chapter 1713 very good, very powerful. Quack, quack. The sound of the 6-winged centipede swallowing the moth was like a bell of death. Species mutual restraint is very obvious in Journey to the West, just like the scorpion spirit that the original Vice Admiral Monkey made half dead, and the Subaru star is just a cock spirit in the early stage of Tai Junxian, so he restrained it to death. Centipedes are born to feed on crickets, moths, insects and other things, not to mention that the 6 wings are slaughtered from 495 highly poisonous worms. Incomparably poisonous, and the body is extremely hard. The action is like the wind, and the speed is comparable to the supernatural power of the escape technique. Even Jinxian will feel trembling from the bottom of his heart when facing it. However, there are gains and losses. Although this 6-winged centipede defies the sky, it still stops there. Due to limited intelligence, it is probably only equivalent to a 5 or 6-year-old human child, and has no chance to grow. It is also because it is a spiritual treasure that promotes life. It is completely impossible to set foot in the immortal way, and it is not even a monster. If you really want to say what kind of species it is probably similar to the wild beasts in the ancient times. Who sent you here? Explain it yourself, don't make me work hard. Roja's eyes were gloomy. It was these 2 bastards, which made him dare not go anywhere for 2 months, and stayed on the top of Shushan honestly. For fear of an accident in Shushan. When he was cultivating, he came to investigate abruptly, and often made him angry. If this kind of bastard could make him leave alive, it would be hell. Ancestor, yes, it is the ancient Buddha. The ancient Buddha who burned the lamp sent us here. The ancient Buddha ordered us to investigate 3 to 6 times a day and report it in time. If there is turmoil in Shushan, we will report to him immediately. This mole cricket with a look of fear on Jing's face, he poured beans into a bamboo tube and reported everything clearly. Lightning. Roja squinted, with a sneer on his face. Originally, he still had a little bit of a favorable impression of the burning light. After all, it was because of Yuanshi Tianzun that he had to bear the blame, and he had to be sentenced to Chanjiao. Even because he was too ruthless with the interception, the one who would offend the interceptor had no place to live except for Buddhism. Hongmeng Purple Chi. This makes it an unpleasant existence in Buddhism. Whoever gets on it is unlucky, and now that old guy dares to come to Shushan's idea, in Roja's heart, it is no different from courting death. The forces of the 3 realms have been offended many times. Even if they grab the primordial violet chi, other people would definitely not sit back and watch them become sanctified. I am afraid that it would be like to attack them in groups. You can still live if you do evil in the sky, but you can't live if you do it yourself. Roja muttered in his mouth. His face was gloomy and terrible, and he had already started to calculate in his heart. When the lamp was lit, he called Subhuti and Gen Yuanzi, and gave it to Half-Road Intercepted. It is true that the lamp is very strong, and it is one of the best among the Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian, and it is not weaker than the ancestor Ming standing in the sea of blood. The innate high-grade spiritual treasure coffin lamp on the top of the head, holding the first innate merit spiritual treasure, measurement ruler, and 24 Dinghai Shinju behind the back to form 24 small worlds of Sumeru. Although the number of magic treasures is small, all of them are as extraordinary. Moreover, because he is also proficient in both Buddhism and Taoism, his strength is absolutely unquestionable. If it is one-on-one, whether it is Gen Yuanzi or Subhuti, it is more to lose than to win. Before the consecration of the gods, he was the deputy leader of Chanzhou, the first person under Chanzhou Yuanshi Tianzun. Even the 12 golden immortals, he would call him teacher when he saw the lamp. Such a character, if you want to let him fall, without complete preparation, I am afraid it is impossible. Even if Roja cultivated to the realm of Hunyuan Deluogen in the future, he may not be 100% sure, so that he has no chance to escape. Mass, I can't kill you. Roja scolded indignantly. When he looked at Six Wings, he saw that he had eaten the moth cleanly, and his eyes were shining with a strange luster. Gogo stared at the mole cricket. The six-winged centipede has no cultivation, and the power it shows now is entirely because of its own strength. If there is no cultivation, it will feel hungry. In the GU poison gourd, it survives by absorbing that highly poisonous thing. Out of the outside world, it depends entirely on the flesh and blood of other creatures. Eat it. Roja is not a kind-hearted person. Since he decided not to let go of the mole cricket, he naturally wouldn't go back on his promise, and spoke directly to Six Wings on the side. Old Ancestor Rao. Ah, how fast is the speed of the Six Wings? After receiving the order, it directly turned into a yellow light, pounced on the mole cricket, and the serrated teeth bit its head. Quack, quack. The sound of the six-winged chewing can be heard endlessly. Under its sharp teeth, the fleshy body of the golden immortal is like tofu. The real body of the cricket appeared, and it was eaten completely in just a moment. Crack, click, click, click. As soon as the Six Wings finished eating, they directly reduced their size, changed to less than an inch again, and flew to Roja's eyes as if to please. Although it's a little ugly, it's very good and powerful. Roja praised, completely out of sincerity. Although this six-winged centipede is not very good-looking, let alone other things, just this flight speed and a good tooth, it can be to the point where most monks died. What's more, the most powerful thing in Six Wings is the poison that comes from GU poison gourd, and even if Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian is bitten, it's not too bad. Crack, click. Hearing Roja's praise, the six-winged centipede circled in the air with joy. This kind of creature with extremely simple intelligence, whether happy or sad, is far easier than ordinary people. After turning around a few times, Six Wings came to Roja's finger, and went around his tail finger to form a ring-like thing attached to it. The body is neither long nor short, just circled around, hiding the fangs and wings. It looks like a real ring. The black and gold interwoven body is full of metallic luster. Lying trough, yin sharp weapon. A smile appeared on Roja's face, and he muttered. The most powerful thing in these Six Wings is poison. That was really interesting. Even Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian, I am afraid that it will not be better if he is so savagely stabbed. The poison enters the body, and he will cut off his arm in minutes. Solve the peeping spirit that had been bothering him for 2 months, and obtained the six-winged weapon. Roja was very happy, and he urged Shining to return directly to Shushan, ready to continue to make such a few more. G.U. King. Chapter 1714 _ The Body of Acquired Poison. Back in Shushan, Roja had just sat down, and several clones were automatically released. These clones comprehended various laws, and now they have basically reached their limit. Golden Badge of Fortune, a good thing, what you want. Roja sorted out the gains in his mind, and couldn't help but sigh. he just tried to comprehend it to see if he could. After comprehending one or two things about refining GU, I didn't expect that there would be a lot of gains. The things recorded in the Golden Chapter of Fortune are quite complicated, and many of them are left and right, and they are usually not noticed by Roja. After all, in his heart, those tricks are not elegant after all. But this incident reminded him that many things should not be underestimated. Since they exist, there must be a reason for their existence. With the Golden Badge of Fortune, he directly realized the refining of 4 kinds of GU insects. Method. These 4 kinds of GU worms are all recorded in the 3 realms, and one is more tyrannical than the other. To refine it, it also requires a lot of tedious steps. If let him come step by step, Roja would rather run to which low-level world now, search directly, get the power of the source, and come back will definitely be profitable. But now there are 2 guys in Shushan who are extremely fond of GU worms, Anu and Jiangxi, so naturally he doesn't need to spend a lot of time, just pass the secret method to the 2 of them. These 4 kinds of GU worms are named Ice Silkworm GU, Blood Clotting GU, Eating Spirit GU, and Purifying Spirit GU. In the original books, they all believed that these 3 kinds of GU worms were born of the heaven and the earth. However, Roja directly understood the artificial cultivation method from the Golden Badge of Fortune, Ice Silkworm GU, which contains the aura of the North Nether Ice. Even if it is an idle Jinxian, he would not dare to approach it easily. If the Ice Silkworm GU is refined into the body, the cultivator can easily use the immortal power of the ice attribute. Open black lens bracket coagulation GU close black lens bracket. It is best to refine. It is a kind of GU worm that can heal wounds. External use can stop bleeding and relieve pain, and restrain all kinds of corrosive wounds that are difficult to heal. Blood loss. And when it is used against the enemy, this kind of blood coagulation GU is even more terrifying. Once it bites the body of the monk, it will make the blood stagnate, and it will completely lose its resistance for a moment or 3, causing harm to the practitioners. Especially big. Eating Spirit GU is a special kind of GU insect. It is only the size of an ordinary finger belly, but for the protection of the body, the magic shield has a very strong restraint. It does not need much, even if there are only 10, the day after tomorrow a level Lingbao can only defend for a while. If the number increases to 100 or 1,000, I am afraid that even the innate level spiritual treasures will be enough, but correspondingly, this kind of GU worm is extremely difficult to refine, and whether it can be achieved or not basically depends on luck. Of course, this is how ordinary people refine this kind of GU worm. Roja has been carefully observing the process of GU Poison Gourd, refining the GU King. He came up with a set of tricks that can increase the refining power of GU worms. With the highly poisonous poison produced by GU Poison Gourd, whether it is refining Eating Spirit GU, or refining Blood GU, and Ice Silkworm GU, it can greatly increase the success rate, and even the resulting GU insects will more powerful. The last kind of Purifying Spirit GU is different. It has more stringent requirements for GU worms. Although the secret technique that Roja comprehends can also increase the success rate, its success rate is still pitifully low. Purifying Spirit GU is the product of 10,000 gus fighting each other. It grinds its anger, removes its fangs, refines it into the body, and becomes a thing that intersects with life and life. And along with refining, people's constitution will also become a body of acquired poison under the influence of this Purifying Spirit GU. Not only will their aptitude be greatly improved, but they can even be cultivated by taking poisons. The more poisonous it is, the faster the cultivation will improve. According to Roja's guess, if there are enough poisons, even if it is upgraded to Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian, it will not be a problem. This kind of treasure is to have a try even if the success rate of refining is low. After all, even if you can only refine one, it will be a big profit. With a plan in mind, he picked up the magic weapon specially made by the clones for Anu and Zhang to hold the refining GU worms, and Roja got up and walked towards the remote courtyard in the back mountain. Failed again, Master Shungnan, Anu is so stupid. If this goes on, Her Royal Highness the Princess doesn't need Anu anymore. Before entering the courtyard, Roha heard Anand's slightly collapsed voice, and the words were full of disappointment. With a swept away, he saw his figure sitting slumped on the ground and muttering to himself. Zhao Linger is now the pinnacle of Tai True Immortal, and she may even hit the Golden Immortal realm at any time. Although Anu cultivates diligently, but because she is too young, she is only in the early stage of True Immortal. The gap between the two is not unreasonable big. The education that Anu received since childhood was to protect the Nua family. He followed Zhao Linger here in order to be able to help her. Now, under the disparity in strength, Anu even had self-doubt. Have you given up so soon? Your Highness, the princess, is still practicing hard. Roha stepped into the small courtyard with a smile on his face. Seeing Anu's situation, he could rest assured the job of refining GU worms is handed over to her. With such a heart to protect Zhao Linger, she will definitely do her best, and with all kinds of secret techniques, the number of GU worms will definitely not be small. If this kind of GU worm reaches a certain scale, it can definitely become a big killer. If there can be 1,000 kinds of GU worms, it will be 1,000,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals besieging Shushan. Turned into a corpse. Master Shanran, you must have a way, right? Master Shanran, please help Anu. Anu will play the flute for you. Anu saw Roha come in, with a strong joy on his face. A gust of wind ran over and asked in a coquettish voice. I think it's better to blow the flute. Roha replied casually, with a bit of ridicule on his face. Blowing this kind of thing? Of course, the flute is good. Hello, hello, hello everyone. Xiao Anu can also play. Master Shanran, you help Anu, and Anu will blow it for you. Anu pulled Roha's sleeve, with a pitiful look on his face. This for a while, she was really anxious. Cough, then help me get 99 of each of the 5 poisons. These things will be given to you first, so that you can use them in the future. Roha looked at Anu's underage body, coughed twice, and quickly changing the subject. What I just said was too easy for people to misunderstand. Chapter 1715_Kunpeng gets purple energy. Huh, oh Tilda, Anu looked at the magic weapon in her hand curiously, and when she came to Shushan, she had already obtained a lot of magic weapons, but it looked like a honeycomb magic weapon, and it was the first time she saw it. Although he was curious, when Anu heard Roha's words, he immediately reacted, and quickly turned around to give him the 5 poisons first. As a GU refiner, the consumption of poisonous insects every day is a large number. Anu and Zhang clan have a lot of stock. After their arrival, they have been searching for poisonous insects for a long time. Roha put away the 5 poisonous objects carefully selected by the 495 Anu, raised a finger on his eyebrows, and passed on the usage of the magic weapon and the method of refining GU that he had learned before. The 3 honeycomb-shaped magic weapons have the same effect, and there are 9,999 honeycomb dots on it, which are 9,999 divided small sumi spaces. The formation of the animal ring is the most suitable for fostering poisonous insects. Apart from the magic weapon alone, it is already extremely complicated. There is a small storage opening above the magic weapon. This storage opening contains space, but Roha is an imitation of GU poison gourd refining. It is the most suitable for refining GU worms, and even the formation is imitated GU poison gourd, which is quite magical. In addition to these 3 honeycomb magic weapons, Roha also specially used a Nahai bottle filled with the highly poisonous poison used to cultivate in this GU poison gourd. The Nahai bottle with chenkin inside contains the poisonous poison, which is enough for Anu to use for 5 years. With these things in it, it will definitely be able to cultivate extremely terrifying GU insects. 5 recipes, 4 are for refining GU, and 1 is a method to increase the chance of becoming a GU. Practice hard. If the training is successful, you will not be able to rely on you to protect Linger in the future. Besides, this recipe is not only for Zhang outside the clan, it is not allowed to be passed on. Quote. Before Roha left, Anu was specially and slightly stimulated. Only with the thought of protecting Zhao Linger, this girl will work hard like a chicken blood. As for why the order could not be passed on to other people except to Yang's, Roha didn't want his Shushan to become full of poisonous insects. If the entire Shushan is used, then in all likelihood, people will treat it as a demon heresy. After all, this is a trick of the side, but it is difficult for ordinary people to understand. Anu understands. Anu nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. With the movement, there was a tinkling sound on his clothes. Roha nodded with a smile, turned around and walked out of the courtyard, while Anu couldn't wait to start studying magic tricks, sacrificing magic weapons, in order to refine GU insects as soon as possible. After returning to the residence, a new round of GU King training began soon. Lu Wing was restless on Roha's fingers, and quickly flew back to the GU poison gourd. Condensed in the gourd, the beginning of the 5 elements, represents the metallic position. The 5 elements are mutually reinforcing, and the 5 elements complement each other. Is it possible to refine the treasure of the 5 elements with the 5 poisons? Tisk tisk, it seems that only 5 can be refined. Roha saw this scene, silently perceived the changes in the lower gourd, and muttered to himself. The GU worms refined by GU poison gourd are unusually domineering, and the way of heaven will allow such things to appear indefinitely. At the beginning of their birth, only 5 of them can appear. After all, if there are too many of these things, hundreds of them will form a group, and even the saints will have to retreat. The number of 5 is not much, but for Roha, it is completely enough. After all, he is not relying on GU insects to stand up, just be an auxiliary tool, and give the enemy a ruthless at a critical moment. Even the Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian will be crushed. As for the real encounter with the saint, Roha didn't expect much at all. Even if he could bite and cause a slight impact, the impact was extremely limited. Just like Taoist mosquito, it is fierce and unusual, and everyone avoids it, but when faced with a sage, even if it bites, it will not be able to suck anything, but will be slapped to death by the sage. King Gu's refining is completely self-operated by magic weapons. Roha doesn't need to pay attention at all. After solving the annoying spiritual sense of exploring Shushan, he began to use the magical power of peeping the sky to quietly check the trend of the Hongmeng Purple Chi competition. Just this inspection, his mind suddenly tightened, and he quickly took out the communication jade slip that he had been keeping in his arms, which had never been included in the space ring, and contacted Subhuti and Junyuanzi. The demon master Kunpeng actually won a piece of Hongmeng Purple energy. This Hongmeng Purple Chi was now deterred by Kunpeng with a magical power, but it has not been taken into the body. It's just that the demon master Kunpeng's body is Kunpeng, and its speed is fully open. Among the 3 realms, there are really few people who can catch up. The others are left far behind, and the distance is even bigger and bigger. In a quarter of an hour, Kunpeng will completely get rid of the person behind him. There is a record in the Taoist scriptures. There is a fish in Beiming, its name is Kun. Kun is so big, I don't know how many thousands of miles it is. When it turns into a bird, its name is Peng. The back of Peng, I don't know how many thousands of miles it is. Flying in anger, its wings are like clouds hanging from the sky. Kunpeng's speed is the best in the 3 realms. Even the golden-winged Dapeng eagle that appeared in Journey to the West might not be able to compare to Kunpeng's speed simply by competing. Peeking in the heavenly way, Roha's spiritual mind kept switching on the people of the previous team. After the screen changed continuously, he saw Lingji Bodhisattva, who was bleeding from his chest and constantly swallowing medicine pills. This Lingji Bodhisattva is a monk in the early stage of Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian. He has appeared many times in the original novel of Journey to the West. At this time, Guanyin Bodhisattva held the jade bottle, and threw out willow nectar, one after another, helping Lingji Bodhisattva to stabilize his injury. Looking at the situation, it is likely that Lingji Bodhisattva got the chance, but was robbed by the demon master Kunpeng. Hurry up and tell the Buddha, if Kunpeng really gets the chance, I'm afraid I will be the first in Buddhism to suffer. Even though Lingji Bodhisattva was in the process of healing, he still did not forget to remind Guanyin behind him, but the strong hatred revealed on his body. But he clearly stated his true thoughts. What he can't get, can't let Kunpeng get it no matter what. The surrounding land is full of the corpses of monsters and some loose cultivators. You don't have to guess to know that there has been a robbery and siege just now. It's really at a juncture of competing interests. Buddhists don't talk about compassion, and the killer has no hesitation at all. It's already clear that the Buddha will personally take action. Guanyin Bodhisattva frowned, opened his mouth, and sighed in his heart. Chapter 1716-Robbery of the Big Three. The murderous intentions of heaven and earth came, and the world was filled with endless hostility. Guanyin had seen this situation once before, and it was the time of the Battle of Conferring Gods. At that time, too many colleagues died, and too many friends died. After barely surviving the calamity, either she was calculated, or she no longer had any nostalgia for the teachings. She went with the fear of Lucen, Manjushri, and Puxian into Buddhism. Now in this Buddhism, once again encountering a killing calamity, Guanyin is indeed a little confused. After going down the mountain this time, in the end, I don't know if I can safely return to the Western Heaven Buddha realm. Seheng transforms Avalokitesvara, abandoning the Tao to follow the Buddha, but it is difficult to avoid karmic obstacles. He sighed silently in his heart, and Guanyin looked up at Tianyu, with a touch of melancholy in his expression. Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian actually has an unstable mind. Roha couldn't help but mutter to himself when he saw Guanyin's eyes in the way of heaven. The predecessor of Guanyin was Taoist Seheng, one of the 12 golden immortals. He had a profound Taoism and belonged to the middle and upper tiers among the 12 golden immortals. The cultivation base is much higher than that of Lingji Bodhisattva, a person of pure Buddhist origin, and his supernatural powers are also well known in the three realms. Few people have the ability to bring everything back to life with one hand. It's just that the dangling appearance of his Tao heart at this time is really unexpected. After all, he can reach the realm of Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian, and he must be a person who understands himself. In this realm, external demons do not invade, and internal demons do not arise, which is really rare. This happens to monks. If he usually sees this scene, Roha will definitely study it carefully, but at this time it is an important juncture for the competition for Hongmeng Purple Qi. On the body of the demon master Kunpeng, who was fleeing very fast. Shu tilde. It was only a few breaths of time for Roha to use the communication jade slip to send a message, and both Subhuti and Zhen Yuanzi appeared in front of him, and the reaction speed was not unpleasant. In the past, in order to make it easier for the two to come in and out, Roha directly gave the soul-raising wood spirit card in the mountain gate of the two, so that they could walk through the guardian array without hindrance. The relationship between the three is there, and in Shushan, there is really nothing that they can conspire, just that Hongmeng Purple Qi, or the reincarnation of the Red Cloud, and they are more or less the guardian. If you really want to talk about the relationship between three people, put it in the previous life, these are the four irons of life. Together, they have carried guns, climbed over walls together, shared dirt together, and prostitutes together. Of course, the last point hasn't been done yet, but the first three things are almost done. It's an ironclad relationship. Others can't understand at all. When they reach their level, why can they still trust each other so much? How is the situation now? As soon as Zhen Yuanzi appeared, he couldn't wait to speak, with a hint of urgency on his face. He didn't like Kunpeng at all, and it was not an exaggeration to say that he had a deep hatred. After all, at the beginning, it was Kunpeng who intercepted and killed his best friend Hongyun, which led to the death of Hongyun in the end, and he had to enter reincarnation and reincarnated. Although Hongyun is now reincarnated for 10,000 tribulations, worshipped in Shushan, and even obtained a purple chi of grandmissance that can be completely sanctified, but after all, he is no longer his best friend. This kind of hatred, even with the open-mindedness of Zhen Yuanzi, could not be relieved. From the communication jade slip, it was Kunpeng who could see the purple chi of Hongmeng. He let go of everything and appeared immediately. Although Subhuti had no hatred with Kunpeng, he clearly knew that Zhenyuanzi's hatred of Kunpeng was probably not much less than his hatred of sticks, so he rushed over immediately. Kunpeng used his supernatural powers to forcibly restrain Hongmeng's purple energy, and he has already left the land of Dongsheng Shenzhou. Looking at the target, he did not go towards Beiju Luzhou. Instead, he went straight towards the spring where the four seas meet. Shu is still hanging, but the distance is getting farther and farther, and at most a quarter of an hour will be completely thrown away. While monitoring the movements of Kunpeng from the peeping the sky and seeing spirit magical power, Roha explained to the two of them that the three giants of robbery gathered again. I am afraid that this time, there will be Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian falling again. The spring at the junction of the four seas. No, that shouldn't be his ultimate goal. Where is the Demon Master's palace? The Demon Master's palace in Beiju Luzhou is still not there. Zhenyuanzi frowned, his mind changed sharply, and he began to analyze this. Where will Kunpeng flee to? Demon Master's palace is a top-grade innate spiritual treasure, and it is also the most famous spiritual treasure in the hands of the Demon Master Kunpeng. Its defense is almost as strong as that of the 12th grade merit Golden Lotus. In addition, its comprehensive defense can resist physical attacks, magical attack, and even able to resist chaotic turbulence, known as the first turtle shell in the three realms. Although in terms of personal protection alone, it is not as strong as the first innate merit and virtue, Heaven and Earth Xuanwang Linglong Pagoda, but on the whole, it is faintly surpassed. Beiju Luzhou. No, the Demon Master's palace is probably on Kunpeng. Roha instantly locked a person in Beiju Luzhou, and when he saw that the original Monster Master's palace had become empty, he opened his mouth and said, "The land of chaos outside the world. If Kunpeng wants to refine it, he will definitely go to the land of chaos outside the world." Zhenyuanzi spoke again, and his hands were not slow at all, but he had already started to build a space that led directly to the land of chaos outside the world. Regarding Zhenyuanzi's analysis, neither Roha nor Subhuti had the slightest objection. The enemy who knew him best was the enemy. Zhenyuanzi absolutely understood the Demon Master Kunpeng in his bones. Wait, Buddhalite, the Tathagata is preparing to kill Kunpeng in the spring of the four seas. Just when the three of them wanted to leave, Roha saw the Tathagata who appeared in the spring of the four seas using the void shift supernatural power, and hurriedly shouted, "Speak up. Don't worry about him, the Tathagata can't catch up with Kunpeng, let's go." Zhenyuanzi said, with a bit of urgency on his face. He can be sure that even if the Tathagata has shrinking Chinshin Wajaji, even with two top-level magical powers, Kunpeng was determined not to be trapped. The title of Demon Master was not for nothing. In terms of seniority, the Demon Master Kunpeng was the first group of creatures in Kaishan, and his seniority was even higher than that of the Tathagata, and he was the same generation as several saints. When Roha heard Zhenyuanzi's words, he didn't hesitate at all, and directly put away the magical power of peeping the sky, and stepped into the space passage with Zhenyuanzi and Subhuti. In the chaotic land outside the world, when Roha was chased around the world by Moro's blood-sea congealing Shah, Subhuti and Zhenyuanzi proposed to take him there to solve the problem, and then he also specially consulted the classics. Chapter 1717-Yuanshi Tianzun Shot. This chaotic place outside the realm is different from the three realms. It is the original world. It was in this world that Pengu created the world today. Back then, more than 3,000 innate gods and demons lived in chaos. Although there were occasional fights, in general, they were still in a relatively peaceful environment. Because there was no direct interest relationship between them, there was naturally no hatred. However, all this was broken when Pengu decided to open up the world. Breaking the original environment would inevitably face the resistance of those who originally lived here. In itself, perhaps Pengu is a godfather existence to the people of Journey to the West. Without Pengu, there would be no them. In their eyes, Pengu is aloof and supreme benevolence. But in the eyes of innate gods and demons, Pengu is an out-and-out villain. Originally, everyone was living in peace and harmony. Why did he have to open the sky? This concept, converted to the previous life, is to develop a beautiful land into a city. Both sides insist on their own words. Some say that the original ecology should be protected, and the other said that it is right to build a city. Because of the difference in philosophies, 3,000 gods and demons besieged Pengu and prevented him from opening the sky. From this, it can be seen that Pengu went his own way and did not listen to people's admonitions at all. After the First World War, most of the 3,000 gods and demons died on the spot, and only a few fled into the depths of chaos. Some of these congenital gods and demons who escaped died of serious injuries, and some of them were transformed into the flood. Roha doesn't want to pay too much attention to who is right and who is wrong between the 3,000 gods and demons and Pengu. After all, whether his original world was born from the creation of the world or the Big Bang of the universe is really hard to say. But he really wanted to thank Pengu, otherwise, where would there be such a wonderful world of journey to the west, where would there be a place for him to chase higher mountains and higher realms? Fellow Taoist Luo, you can still see the movements of Kunpeng. Zhen Yuanzi spent a lot of money, and he forcibly opened a space channel to the chaos outside the world in the shortest time. This is not a joke. Chaos outside the world is located 33 days away. Not only is the distance between them, but also dozens of layers of space between each other. Roha thought to himself, but now he can't reach this place once. Yes, Kunpeng was injured, his left claws were broken at the same root, and his abdomen was pierced, but he has thrown away the Tathagata, and now he is coming straight toward the chaos outside the world. Roha closed his eyes, used the peeping sky vision spirit, supernatural power, and peeped at Kunpeng's movements in the heavenly way. This chaotic gangwind, for the following Deluo Jinxian, is almost an instant death. Even for the Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian, there is no small threat. If it encounters such a large-scale chaos gangfang, it is the Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian. Be careful to avoid. Already on the third level, Kunpeng will jump into the chaos beyond the bounds 93,500 miles over there in a straight line. Roha paid attention to Kunpeng's movements, and pointed directly to the position where Kunpeng was about to come out. Go! Zhen Yuanzi had no doubts about Roha's speculation at all. He snorted lightly, and opened a space channel again. And the process of opening a space channel, in Roha's eyes, is actually much easier than opening a space channel normally, which is really curious. Now he is no longer a little wight who doesn't understand anything. The more he understands, the more doubts he has in his heart. Ordinary cultivators, who are under the way of heaven, open up space passages are limited to the rules of the way of heaven. This place is already outside the control of heaven, so it is called a place outside the world. Zhen Yuanzi's magical power is actually in a place outside the world, stronger than that under the way of heaven. Stepping into the space passage, Roha was still puzzled in his heart. Zhen Yuanzi was the shape of the Earth's fetal membrane, so he was called the ancestor of the Earth Immortal. It is not a congenital god and demon, but the spatial supernatural power is actually more suitable for the avenue. What's the situation? After walking out of the space passage, Zhen Yuanzi's beard and hair fluttered, and his clothes were bulging. He started to set up the space barrier again. Kunpeng was extremely fast. For it is impossible to leave it behind. Taoist Zhen Yuanzi was instructed by Daxian Yangmei in ancient times. Subhuti clearly saw Roha's doubts and explained, secretly adjusting his breath to prepare for the next battle. The demon master Kunpeng, when he was in the heavenly court of the demon clan, was once the second person in the heavenly court after the demon emperor Jun and Dongwang Tai. Although his fate was tragic and he did not have many treasures on his body, his magical powers were impressive. Before the three sovereigns became enlightened, the demon master Kunpeng inherited Di Jun's Hichu Luoshu, and he also had a companion spiritual treasure, Demon Master Palace. Later, Fuxi was reincarnated as an adult. In order to become one of the three emperors, the sage Nua personally put pressure on the demon master Kunpeng for her brother. The demon clan was newly defeated, and the demon master Kunpeng was only in the late stage of the Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian. Although Nua was the lowest among the saints, she could be said to have the most treasures. Kunpeng couldn't bear the pressure and handed over the Hichu Luoshu. From then on, he could only live in the corner of Beiju Luzhou. After that, even if Fuxi became a Taoist, he never returned the Hichu Luoshu. So in the eyes of outsiders, Kunpeng only has a top-quality congenital spiritual treasure, Demon Master Palace. In addition, he can stand alone in the three realms by relying solely on his top-level magical powers. If things go well, in Subhuti's eyes, dealing with Kunpeng this time is far easier than dealing with Styx. After all, Kunpeng was already injured at this time, and they were sniping ahead of time, so there shouldn't be any surprises. However, Kunpeng's speed is extremely fast, which is unmatched among the Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian. Yang Mei, Roha muttered, with a bit of clarity on his face. In his Myriad World Spirit Garden map, there was also a wicker of Yang Mei's body. After so long, it has just grown into a small sapling that is less than the thickness of a little finger. But with just such a little bit of wicker, the power is already extraordinary. The breadth of the 10 innate spiritual roots is not weaker than other innate spiritual roots, and even in terms of aggression, it is comparable to the thundering polar treasure tree. 17th Heaven, 18th, 19th, 20. Wait, mad, Yuan Shi Tianzun. After Roha heard Subhuti's words, he continued to pay attention to Kunpeng's movements, but on the 20th heaven just now, he saw Yuan Shi Tianzun in a white shirt. Saint is going to take action. What's the meaning? Isn't it a big disaster? Is this a catastrophe? Chapter 1718-primitive calculation. When Junyuanzi and Subhuti heard Roha's words, their spirits were all tense. How could Yuan Shi Tianzun come out at this moment? Don't look at Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian Peak and the saints are only separated by a thin line, but the gap is huge. The saints take action, the heaven responds, with great power, every move, in line with the laws of heaven and earth, even if it is just a casual palm, it can be set off space turbulence. On the 20th day, Shiwang Xiaomingtian, Yuan Shi Tianzun stood on the road that Kunpeng had to go through. His face was not even the slightest expression, so plain that it looked like a clay sculpture, a cloud of mist. But it is such a figure, whether it is Roha, Subhuti, Zhen Yuanzi, or Kunpeng who is speeding at high speed, all expressions have changed greatly. Kunpeng's eyes narrowed, the saint blocked the way, and he was already severely injured. In this case, dodging was useless, and there was no need to think about it. It was definitely the way to die. I don't know what the saint has to teach. A haze flashed in Kunpeng's heart. He couldn't help it, so he could only transform into a human figure, and after receiving the magical power, he walked to the original Tianzun, bowed before asking. This purplish chi is not your chance. If you return to the three realms at this time, release the purplish chi and settle down in Luzhou, you still have a chance to survive. Moving forward is the way to die. Yuan Shi Tianzun opened his mouth, and his face still had the look of not asking about the world, but what he said not only made Kunpeng's heart tighten, but Roha almost scolded. What the hell? Block someone else's way of getting rich. If you want Hongmeng purple chi to be used by your disciples, just say it straight, and do this crookedly. Don't you feel like you're a loser? Do you have the majesty of a saint? Do you have a little bit of skin? And it is so obvious that you can't be shameless. Fuck. Roha fiercely cursed Yuan Shi Tianzun's early death and early rebirth, and he couldn't help but bring a bit of resentment on his face. It's a pity that the two places are very far apart at this time. Shiwang Xiaomingtian and the land outside the world are not only separated by dozens of layers of space, but also tens of millions of miles away. Will the venerable saint take action? The expression on Kunpeng's face was already stinky to the extreme. He had been unlucky since ancient times, and served the Feng clan. When he defected to the Dragon clan said that he was a species with feathers and wings, and even launched an order to hunt down the entire clan, and finally defected to the Qilin, and the Qilin even said that he was useless and had nothing to do with beasts. In the days of ancient times, Kunpeng really lived a difficult life. He had been through these difficult days for thousands of years. It was not until the war between the dragon, the phoenix and the unicorn, and the demon and the witches began to occupy the wild, and it began to feel better. And his appointment as a celestial demon master is already a matter of the late demon clan celestial court. 10,000 years have not passed since the good days. The Lich War was another calamity, and he almost died. Even Nua, who was supposed to be the master of the demon clan, stood up to oppress him, and in the end she was still alone. Only the companion spirit treasure, Yaoshi Palace, was always by her side. Looking at the 3,000 guests who heard the sermon in the Zishao Palace at the beginning, except for those who fell early and can live to this day, almost all of them are better than him. At the beginning, because of Hong Yun's words, he lost the chance to be sanctified. Kunpeng regrets it to this day. Looking at the Hongmeng Zichi whose palm is bound by magical powers, how could he give up this chance that he had finally snatched away? The catastrophe of heaven and earth will not come, and the saint will not leave. The deity is just passing by today. Listen or not, it's up to you. Seeing Kunpeng's expression, Yuan Shi Tianzun frowned secretly, and he also secretly scolded Kunpeng for not knowing what to do. If he obediently releases the Hongmeng Purple Qi back to the Three Realms, then his sect will have an opportunity to take advantage of, at least half of it, and fight with Buddhism, but if he doesn't let it go, it will be a bargain for others. He appeared here today, but he wasn't passing by as he said. As soon as the saint's thoughts came out, he could reach thousands of miles in an instant. Even from the Qingweidian of the Jade Purity Realm to the Great Red Sky of the Taiching Realm, it was just a blink of an eye. However, Yuan Shi Tianzun can only play a side ball. What Hong Jun said back then, the catastrophe will not come, the saint will not come out, it is not the teacher's own will, but the will of heaven. As a saint of the Tao of heaven, even if Tianzun Yuanshi is arrogant and unscrupulous, he would not dare to violate the will of the Tao of heaven, otherwise he will not be affected by the slightest bit. Thank you for the sage's warning. It's just Kunpeng, I don't want to let go anymore. Kunpeng squinted his eyes and saluted Yuan Shi Tianzun. After all, he maintained the peace on the face, turned around and continued to go straight to the chaotic land outside the world. I don't know what's wrong. Yuan Shi Tianzun's heart was full of coldness. If it wasn't because of the rules of heaven, he would like to kill Kunpeng directly. In this case, he is completely making a wedding dress for Roha. Looking up at Tiandao, Yuan Shi Tianzun snorted coldly in his heart, but a hypocritical smile appeared on his face, and he nodded lightly as a greeting. Roha's peeping the sky and vision, Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian can't feel it, but Yuan Shi Tianzun can easily detect it. Such a discord between face and heart is what these guys often do. In the Western Heaven Buddha realm, Junti and Jayan secretly gritted their teeth and wanted to make a move, but because of the rules, they could only endure secretly, and they kept scolding the Yuan Shi Tianzun for being too calm. If Yuan Shi Tianzun makes a move, they are the saints of the Tao of Heaven, but they can take the opportunity to take action in the name of the non-exalted person under the jurisdiction of the Tao of Heaven. At that time, if one accidentally spreads to Kunpeng, most of the karma and the punishment of the Tao of Heaven will definitely be punished. It is on Yuan Shi Tianzun. Mass, each one is as cunning as a ghost. Yuan Shi Tianzun, I remember you. Roha cursed fiercely in his heart, and made up his mind, he will definitely let the old man, Yuan Shi Tianzun, kneel on the ground to beg him in the future. Fellow Taoist Luo, what's the situation? Zhen Yuanzi said in a deep voice. After such a delay by Yuan Shi Tianzun, his space prohibition has been arranged. Except for the portal specially reserved for Kunpeng, the strength in other directions is comparable to that of the sticks. More than ever. Yuan Shi has retreated, it should be because of the rules, he didn't dare to take the first shot, Kunpeng has now reached the 23rd level. Roha suppressed the broken thoughts in his heart and answered Zhen Yuanzi's question. Kunpeng's speed was extremely fast, and he was able to pass through the boundary of a layer of space in just a few breaths. After a few tens of seconds, he was already standing above the 30th layer of heaven. It's just that Yuan Shi Tianzun's disturbance caused Kunpeng's heart to feel a little suspicious. At the 30th day, the direction changed and he moved horizontally by more than 100,000 miles. The situation has changed, There, 101,230 miles. Roja shouted anxiously, speaking to Zhen Yuanzi, and scolded Yuan Shi Tianzun again in his heart. Chapter 1719-Kunpeng set. 101,230 miles, you really know how to choose distance. Subhut, help me. Zhen Yuanzi made a series of tricks, starting from the hole just left for Kunpeng, from the inside out, reversed wrap the entire space prohibition with the power of space. The area is full of thousands of miles of space prohibition, and it is extremely difficult to move the whole thing with it. Even with the magical power of Zhenyuanzi Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian, it will feel overwhelming. The key is Kunpeng's speed, which is too fast. These few breaths can pass through the first layer of heaven, that is, in more than 10 seconds, it can span millions of miles. Converting it, this kind of terrifying speed is that the monkey uses somersault cloud without breathing, and turns somersaults with gold stars in his eyes. It is estimated that he is not even qualified to eat ashes. Yeah, Subhut didn't dare to delay. He patted the innate spiritual treasure, Earth Book behind Zhen Yuanzi with one hand, and poured his surging immortal power into Zhen Yuanzi. Get up, let's go. Zhen Yuanzi shouted twice in a row. 8,000 miles of space was banned, and a violent vibration occurred, spreading thousands of miles of spatial fluctuations, and finally the entire forbidden package began to move thousands of miles. It took nearly dozens of seconds before and after Zhen Yuanzi barely managed to do this with the help of Subhut, and just after the transfer was completed, Roja's peeping sky vision, supernatural power saw that Kunpeng was already incompatible with the space ban. A space barrier is missing. Come on, he shouted in a hurry. Roja pulled Zhenyuan and Subhut, who were still gasping for breath, and directly urged Shining, and moved nearly 100 kilometers away. Kunpeng's figure, directly from the space barrier under his feet, drilled out of it and slammed into the space restriction at the top. Boom! Zhen Yuanzi couldn't care about his exhaustion, and he kept clasping in his hands, and the gap left by the space restriction began to slowly close, and Subhut said nothing. He sacrificed Subhut Tang and Yuan to Abi Erjian and attacked. Go up. Shanji. Roja didn't dare to delay seeing this. Jingxi Lotus Robe and Heavenly Punishment Golden Wheel directly transformed into Shanji Zanpakudo, and 12th grade Karma Gurren stepped on his feet and fit the body. Then he rushed towards Kunpeng. Despicable villain. Kunpeng bumped into the space restrictions set up by Zhen Yuanzi, and only felt that his eyes were staring at Venus. The hundreds of layers of space restrictions intertwined and reciprocated. Even if it was his cultivation base of Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian, it is also difficult to break through in a short time. This kind of restriction, if you want to break through independently, you must at least go all out, for nearly an hour, or even use the Demon Master Palace to carry it hard, otherwise there is no chance at all. And neither Subhut nor Roja would give him an hour at all, not even an hour, just a breath. Neither of them wanted to give Kunpeng. When he was in the Three Realms, Kunpeng originally attacked Lingji Bodhisattva by surprise, so he resisted Guanyan's attack. Afterwards, while fleeing, he originally wanted everyone to mistake him for returning to Beiju Luzhou, and deliberately walked towards the place where the four seas spring. Who knew that he was calculated by the Tathagata and was covered by his Jin Lan Jin Bao? In order to get out of trouble, Kunpeng and the Tathagata directly confronted each other with 100 tricks. Because he has separated most of his mind to control the Hongmeng Purple Qi, among the 100 moves, although the posture of fighting for his life has been freed from the control of the Tathagata, he was also hit hard again. The abdomen was pierced through a big hole of about 10 feet, and both feet were lost because of this. The loss was not too heavy, but as long as he could obtain the Hongmeng Purple Qi, all this was worth it in Kunpeng's view. Kunpeng was severely injured, and the Tathagata didn't feel well. Although Kunpeng couldn't exert his full strength because he wanted to control the purple energy of Hongmeng, but once he tried his best, he really couldn't resist, and his golden body was almost broken. Buddhists could only watch Kunpeng escape into the void and go straight to the 33 heavens. After all, there are still 3 paths of Hongmeng Purple Qi floating in the 3 realms. For this one, it would be unwise to give up the remaining 3. At this time, in the chaotic place outside the world, in the space restriction of Zhen Yuanzi, Kunpeng's figure shrank rapidly, trying to avoid the joint attack of Roha and Subhuti. It was just the collision just now that made his internal organs vibrate again and again, and the injury on his body made his speed undoubtedly slower than usual. Although he avoided the sharp Yuan to Abi Erjian, he was unable to avoid the following Subhuti Tang. He was slapped on the back, and countless magical lights exploded on his back. Open, and countless feathers fell to the ground along with the blood. Roha has always taken advantage of his illness to kill him. He shot directly at Kunpeng's chest and abdomen, the hole punched by the Tathagata, and the Shanji Zanpakuto flew out into the air, traversing the wound. And down. Zanpakuto. With a low voice in the mouth, the Shanji Zanpakuto divine light burst forth, and the real fire thunder became extremely violent, and the color of the Shanji Zanpakuto also became like a red-hot iron. Ah! Subhuti! Roha! Kunpeng shouted sharply. The beast's eyes were full of fierce light, and a pure and extremely demonic energy burst forth, billowing demon clouds, and directly sent Shanji Zanpakuto and Subhuti Vine collapsed. Grandson, what do you call Grandpa? Roha's heart moved, and the Shanji Zanpakuto, which was the spiritual treasure of his life, spun and flew back to his side. The wound on Kunpeng's chest and abdomen nearly turned into a big gap under his blow, traversing to the crotch, blood gushing down, and the internal organs and intestines can still be faintly seen. His back was even more dripping with blood, his flesh was falling apart, and bones were faintly visible, but Subhuti didn't show any mercy. Roha, Subhuti, you and I have never had any grievances in the past, but now. Zhen Yuanzi, Kunpeng was about to shout loudly to disturb the mood of the two of them. And saw Zhen Yuanzi, who was trying to close the exit under his feet, with a strong fierce light flashing on his face. When Hongyun died, Zhen Yuanzi and him had more than one encounter, but they couldn't help each other. Seeing his figure at this time, he already understood that either the enemy died or I died today. Tisk tisk, Zhen Yuanzi is very busy right now. If you have anything to say, please tell me and the two of you. Subhuti saw that the two of them joined forces and hit Kunpeng again, and he also put a smile on his face. Robbery of Hongmeng's purple energy is guaranteed. Roya, Subhuti, I have never had a feud with you, and forced a killer. Are you afraid that you will be infected with karma and be caught in a calamity? Kunpeng's face was extremely ugly. Yuanzi has the intention of making a sneak attack. Chapter 1720-Heart is taller than the sky and life is thinner than paper. No one wants to die, especially a cultivator of the level of Kunpeng, who has climbed out of the pile of dead countless times, and cherishes his life more than anyone else. It's just that these words of provocation are really worthless. Roha and Subhuti both sneered and fell into a murder calamity. Killing robbery is both a crisis and an opportunity. Now that they have taken action, they have long thought about it, and seek opportunities in killing robbery. In this case, only by working hard can they be sanctified. Moreover, there is no cause and effect between Roha and Kunpeng, as he said, since he became Hongyu's master, this layer of cause and effect actually hangs on him. If Hongyu became enlightened, he would definitely be like water and fire with Kunpeng. As a master, he would have been involved long ago, and he would not be able to ignore it. The easiest way is to kill Kunpeng now, so as not to leave future troubles. And Subhuti, the relationship between this guy and Zhen Yuanzi could not be explained in a few words for a long time. Before Zhen Yuanzi helped him kill Minghe. Not to mention how to calculate the friendship, just talk about the cause and effect, he helped Zhen Yuanzi to kill Kunpeng. It is only right and proper, and it has no impact at all. Actually, Kunpeng, I still sympathize with you. My heart is higher than the sky, and my life is thinner than paper. Among the 3 realms, there are not many people who point their backs like you. Close black lens bracket above, Kunpeng's careful thinking, he can tell at a glance. You killed Styx. Kunpeng's eyes narrowed slightly, and only then did he notice the Yuantu Abbey's second sword, in Subhuti's hand, and the 12th grade Karma Gurren, at Roha's feet. Fortunately, with the help of Taoist friends Luo and Junyuanzi, I was able to fulfill my wish. With a relaxed smile on his face, Subhuti said bluntly. This kind of thing cannot be concealed. Sooner or later, people in the three realms will know, but now it's just because everyone is busy chasing Hongmeng Purple Chi, and they haven't paid much attention to it. After all, when Minghe died, they also lost a competitor. This kind of thing was completely unbelievable for those who wanted to compete for the Violet Chi of Hongmeng. There is only one piece of Hongmeng Purple Chi here. After you grab it, who should you give it to? Kunpeng's eyes flashed a gleam of light, and if he failed, he made another. Middle. The Kunpeng supernatural power is a kind of yin and yang supernatural power. This yin and yang has been evolved to the extreme, and the chi of chaos has been reproduced again. Only just now can he be able to firmly trap the Hongmeng Zi Chi. This is a problem, but I don't need Hongmeng Purple Chi for the time being. Roha raised his eyebrows and said a word, with a little sarcasm on his face. Kunpeng might have underestimated the relationship between the three of him. Since you are the enemy of Taoist Junyuanzi, this purple energy belongs to Taoist Junyuanzi. Subhuti said noncommittally. One of these words is to delay time, so that Zhen Yuanzi can completely arrange the space prohibition, and the other is his sincere words. There are still 3 Hongmeng Purple Chi left in the 3 realms. The plan of the group can also be done again, and there is no need to rush it for a while. However, the 3 of them had already stated before that something like Hongmeng Purple Chi had to be matched with itself. It was the best way to distribute it to whoever was more suitable. Since the 3 of you have such unanimous opinions, I don't want to die with all of you. Let go of the space restrictions. I will stay with Hongmeng Zichi. How about I leave? Kunpeng's eyes were gloomy and terrifying, and the 3 of them were actually unmoved by the continuous provocation. To his surprise, it was just Hongmeng Zichi. How could he give up so easily? At this time, his eyes were already looking at Junyuan. Son, the demon power in the body is slowly stirring. Zhen Yuanzi is the controller of this space restriction. If he dies or is seriously injured, he will no longer be able to maintain this space restriction. After half an hour, this space restriction will no longer exist. And he just wanted to hold on for half an hour under the siege of Roha and Subhuti. With the vastness of the chaos outside the world, he came out of the ban and hid in the depths of the chaos. Even the saints had difficulty finding him. Demon Master Palace. Although the reputation is not good, the innate first tortoise shell cannot even defend like an ordinary magic weapon, and can only hide in it, but it can withstand the indiscriminate bombardment of Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian for half an hour. Piece of cake. Having made a decision in his heart, Kunpeng used his words to attract the attention of the 2 of them, and at the same time, he secretly used his demon power, completely disregarding the wounds on his body. He was sure that if they dared to take out the medicinal herbs to heal the wounds, the 2 would definitely launch a stormy attack, and would never give him the slightest chance. Even killed Zhen Yuanzi. After all, it is reasonable to say that in his current state, the longer the delay, the more disadvantageous it will be for him, and the opposite is true. When Subhuti and Roha saw that Kunpeng hadn't attacked for a long time, he didn't even attack the gradually closing space restrictions, and they were already muttering in their hearts. They exchanged glances with each other, but they directly understood Kunpeng's intention. After all, if he wanted to go out, only Zhen Yuanzi could do it. However, attacking Zhen Yuanzi. Roha grinned and almost couldn't help laughing. He himself chose to hide 12-grade Merit Golden Lotus, and Asura Hellscythe, Asura Naihi Gui, and Gu Poison Gourd again. Let alone Zhen Yuanzi. Although this guy has been working hard to close the defense under his feet, the Earth Book is running around his body all the time, and although that Northern Xuanyuan water control flag is invisible, Roha does not think that the blue light on his waist is a furnishings. Seemingly loose and tight, Zhen Yuanzi's current protective power is definitely much stronger than that of Subhuti. It can only be said that it is slightly worse than Roha, who has 2 12-piece lotus platforms at the same time. But Kunpeng wanting to make a sneak attack is tantamount to a dream, and now the two of them are absolutely happy to delay time with this Kunpeng. Your condition is indeed very tempting, but if you leave, will you hate the three of me, play tricks in secret, or spread the news in the three realms that the three of us have obtained the violet chi? Subhuti gave Roha a look, and then started chatting with Kunpeng, with a serious look on his face, as if he was really moved by this condition. Roha twitched Vivi's cheek, and Subhuti, this old man, was ready to start teasing Kunpeng again. This kind of inferiority is so special, and I don't know who to learn from.